Welcome to the Kentucky Atheist.
We're in this world, could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste it, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate, you know where to find me. And if you're going atheist, you can fucking bite me. I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, unlikely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, that song. I love that song every time. It
Gets me going.
Yeah, it's just got the right feel for a live stream. I feel like. But how's everybody doing today? I see PC out there. Zach's here. Robin is here. I think Earl and Justin earlier. Yeah. How is everybody doing today? So, my name's Joe. This is the Kentucky Atheist Show. We try to have honest conversations here about serious issues, usually pertaining to religion, obviously. And today, I'm joined with Michael Beverly. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invite, and I'm happy to be here. Hey, everybody out there. There's plenty of names I recognize, and hopefully some new folks will show up.
Yeah. Seems like it usually takes about 10, 12 minutes in, and we start getting, the number starts growing a little bit. It takes a few minutes for everybody to see we're actually live. But while we're waiting on some of that, real quick, this evening I happen to know, and these two things were completely by coincidence, but this evening Michael will be over at Wavelength doing Deep Six with those guys, and here with me, of course, right now, which was just an odd coincidence. Me and the guys at Wavelength, we work on a lot of stuff together and things, and share a lot of info and talk to a lot of the same people. But it just ended up that we both booked you on the same date.
Yeah, no, that was wow, a happy coincidence, because as I was telling you backstage. My girlfriend went to the country house this weekend, so I was by myself. So it worked out really well that I could schedule 2 streams today and also work on editing and, do kind of sit in my office and just me and the dogs. Yeah.
The I really enjoy the Deep Six show. I've done it a few times actually, and it's a lot of fun. It's you never know what clips Justin's going to put together for it, but they're usually relevant to current events anyway. Michael will be over there this evening at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. I will be taking calls with Stephanie over at Skeptic Haven. So at least those two things going on this evening.
Nice. Yeah, I got a political lesson from Stephanie last night. Not on YouTube, in a private place, in the gathering at Jay's place. And she gave me some stuff because I've been trying to process what I even think, because I don't really know. I'm pretty sure when it comes to religion, I got strong places where I can land, but on the politics stuff, I'm still trying to massage my mind. So she was giving me a little bit of a lesson, which was very nice. I appreciate that a lot. Then when people are willing to share their time and experience.
Yeah. Stephanie's very knowledgeable. I mean, she's just got a wide variety of things that she can speak confidently on and usually be right. Stephanie has been a friend of mine for some time, and she'll actually be back here next week doing my call-in show. So,
nice.
It seems like there's don't get me wrong. I've had Matt Dillahunty and Aaron and several other people visit here and talk to me and things, but there's like this group of us that have been kind of bouncing off each other since I started, and they were doing it before I started. But it's I've made some neat friends in the live streaming community that I enjoy a lot.
This is like a second part of. So when I first started this, I was just doing, response videos and the normal stuff you do when you start. And then I started reaching out and talking to people, and then I got connected with some of the same people you're connected with. And it's sort of a different, like when you're doing a response video, you're sitting by yourself trying to edit and do commentary. And then when you're live streaming with, say, a specialist in a certain topic, and your topic is very like, if you invite somebody on to talk about something in the Bible or something in science or whatever, whether they're Christian or atheist, that's the topic. But when you're doing more in the community of, say, friends and stuff that we talk, it's a little bit more fluid. Like, for instance, I had a bar on the other night. And of course, you get me, and we streamed a couple times together, and that can kind of go anywhere. And it's really fun to be able to be in those kind of conversations where you don't really know what to expect.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like, I of course like to have. I try to find, if I'm going to talk about, like, well, for example, I had a Deviant Outcast come on, and we talked about Egyptology. She's an Egyptologist. Nice. Grayson was on this past Monday, and we talked a lot about evolution and abiogenesis and stuff like that. I love being able to meet people who are experts in their field, and when I want to talk about those things, because then I can have a person there that can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually also teaches me quite a bit in the process, which is always awesome, because I love to learn new stuff about the world around me.
Yeah, it's nice that we can get together and talk to people that are experts in a field, as if we were gathering at a coffee shop and just having friendly conversations, which is kind of how this turns out to be when we're talking with, say, a scholar on something that maybe they teach this, and we're getting like sort of like a little free lesson, like a glimpse into what they've spent maybe a lifetime studying. I have a guy coming on to talk to me in 2 days on the 30th, I think. Yeah, the plant evolutionary guy. Because I was thinking to myself, everybody loves dinosaurs and tigers and sharks and apes and the big animals and animals in general. And I thought, man, what about plants? I never heard anybody really get into the nitty gritty of plant evolution. So I reached out to somebody, and he was like super, super, agreeable to do it. And so I'm not sure how that conversation is going to go, but I know it'll be fascinating, because there's got to be tons of stuff. And you had mentioned abiogenesis. That's one of the things I want to ask him about. What does plant evolution, because, it goes back very early when photosynthesis happened. And so there must be something there, maybe in the biomechanics of it, that give us clues about how chemical processes abiogenesis might work. So I'm super, super interesting. And to be able to have that kind of conversation, because if I just called somebody up and said, oh, hey, I want to call you up at home and talk to you for an hour about your book, he's going to say, like, who are you? You're some weirdo. But if you message somebody and say, hey, I have a YouTube channel, and I'm not Joe Rogan, but it's still, it's a level that is professional looking, and we can have professional conversations, but fun conversations. So that opens the door, because otherwise these conversations wouldn't happen. And, and plus people, they write a book, they're always happy to have an audience and maybe sell some copies of their book or get out and talk about it, their favorite thing. Yeah. So, yeah,
I find a lot of the folks I run into that are experts in their thing love to talk about it. Of course, that's been their passion and their interest, and you're like, hey, I got an audience. You want to come discuss this thing with me in a non-biased way, and they're all for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Something you and I were kind of talking about before is it's not always so easy to have theists or apologists talk to you, though. They're kind of squirmy when it comes to they're very picky about how and who they talk to. And
I reached out to a lot of the big ones that just ghost me completely. I did get a response back from Alan Parr, who told me to quit being mean to Jim. Like, yeah, right. He had the audacity to tell me, why don't you do something original? And I'm thinking, you're a Christian apologist. There's nothing you do that hasn't been done a million times for 2,000 years. What's original about what you're doing? You're just pontificating about the same crap. And, fine. I'm responding to your buddy, Jim Wallace. Why don't you come talk to me? Instead of hiding behind your corporate wall. Jeez.
So Alan Parr is the World Harvest guy, right? The
Beat. He's the Beat. He's down in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's buddies with Mike Winger. He's buddies with Jim Wallace.
Parsley. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have to sometimes separate these people because they all say the same stuff. Robin asked, "What are the chances of Behe coming back?"
Yeah, I saw that. I already answered in the chat. I calculate that at 0. Although I will say this, he probably wouldn't blame me as much as he just thinks Jay is a meanie. And this is the honest truth. I did not know how that was going to go. I actually was hoping it would be a little bit more more conversational. That was my goal. But once Jay got emotional about it, and trust me, I'm 100% on Jay's side here. But once he got emotional and Behe felt attacked, that was it for Behe. He was like, I'm done. Well, and that was fine. I mean, I wanted Behe to answer the fucking questions. Answer the questions. Don't here's the thing. If somebody invited me on the show and they were mean to me, a Christian or whatever, yeah, okay, so what? Be as mean as you want. But ask me questions, I'll answer them. Even if you call me bad names, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'm going to answer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I think many, and again, this is me straw manning. It's not like this means anything. It's me talking, just my thoughts. One of the things with many apologists is they just can't say I don't know or admit that they have no idea about this one thing or another. Sure, they're never going to say that about God and stuff. I know that. But I mean, even whenever it comes down to the little things like irreducible complexity and stuff like that, things that have been heavily refuted for years and years now. And, when asked, can you explain, why this is the case? They'll never say, I don't know. It's always they either dodge or...
There's always an answer. Yeah. And his confidence is obviously way over. It's way out of proportion to the reality here, which he has to know that. What I was hoping was, so I had originally approached Behe about talking about irreducible complexity, because I knew in an hour or hour and a half conversation to have this general broad thing, in which he ended up doing, you can't really have a real conversation about each thing. So I wanted to narrow it down to a small thing. Let's talk just about this one thing, irreducible complexity. And he objected and said, no, because that's not my whole argument. My argument is against Darwinism. My argument is evolution, blah, 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 blah. And, whatever, he's a guest on my show and he's being gracious to come talk to me. I didn't want to say no, cancel. I said, okay, fine, do what you're going to do. And of course, Jay handled that very well. Jay knew what was coming, and Jay had a great presentation to refute it. But even in Jay's refutation, he didn't have time to go over each point. He's making his statements. Now, I agree with Jay's statements, but he didn't have time to go over each one. It would take hours to go over each point. So I wanted to just talk about the mousetrap thing, because we could have talked an hour just about why that doesn't work. And I wanted to hear his argument about why he thinks those arguments are bad. But of course, we didn't get to that point. So, oh, well, I mean, there we go.
Yeah. Well, I think that two things. Number one, Jay is of course, very good at this subject, evolution and the things they covered. Jay is of course, a professional also.
Yeah.
And he was well aware of Michael Behe's arguments, his book, which got brought up several times, and he knew what Behe was going to argue, because he's argued the same thing for years and years and years, and it hasn't changed, even though he's been corrected over and over. So whenever Jay exposed that fact that he knew he had knew what was coming,
Right.
and he couldn't pivot or anything. I do think that the question about why he released this after tenure and all that stuff, I do think it was relevant. It was a little harsh, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
do think it was relevant to the conversation.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely relevant and absolutely something he could have answered honestly. And
Yeah.
and and this is the difference generally. I mean, I'm going to overgeneralize here, but the difference between a skeptic atheist, a non-religious person who doesn't have this shame-based thing, they don't generally cry about the question, right? So
Right.
if you ask me a highly personable question that I would never be offended, but I might not answer you. I might
Yeah.
say that I don't want to talk about that, or I'm not comfortable answering, or that involves a third party and I don't have permission to talk about them. Like, there's lots of reasons why I might not answer a question, but it's never going to be because, oh, I had my feelings hurt, or because I'm intentionally bullshitting, which I try not to do. I mean,
Yeah. Right. Sometimes.
yeah. I mean, come on, we all bullshit once in a while,
Right.
but those of us that are honest bullshitters will be honest about it. Yeah, okay, like I'm bullshitting you.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that happens, but
Yeah.
I try not to do that in, like, serious relationships or friends, or in my public face. I'm not going to intentionally. I mean, I'm not going to be on here trying to shill the Bitcoin or something, or crypto.
You're not going to sell your latest coin drop.
Yeah, no, my latest coin drop. It's funny. I actually got into NFTs for a while. Like, I was all into that. I was on Twitter every day. I was researching all these coins. I thought this is going to revolutionize stuff. And then I realized it was just a shell game. And
yeah. Well, I think
out.
what's really cool about, just so you understand where I'm coming from. I have a degree in computer science, and that's what I went to school for. I did study some other things in school, but that's what my degree field was. And I went on to join the computer science engineering program, and ended up running out of financial aid and dropping out of school. So blockchain, which is the technology that a lot of that's built on, is absolutely amazing, and a really good exercise in how you can have a decentralized bit of programming to run some kind of service without having to worry about this server or that server, because it's everywhere, and
right.
So that part of it is really neat to me. But the more that I looked into like cryptocurrencies and stuff, I was like, I don't really like what where that's it's high risk, high reward, of course, and
Yeah, well, the problem for me is the reward can only come if you screw somebody. And that's what got me finally to realize, even if I win at this game, it's only because if I screw somebody out of their money, and I just can't, I couldn't feel good about that aspect of it. Yeah. We could make a coin and make millions of dollars, and you and I could be rich and retire to the Bahamas. But what does that mean to the people that we screwed over?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, there's not an atheist crypto coin out there. We can drop us one of those and do a pump and dump and
yeah, atheist coinage. You guys are all you're all gonna be rich if you get in early.
We'll put Aaron Ra's face on one side, and
yeah.
I'm sure he would love that.
If you buy in early, you get a free NFT, and there's exclusive limited edition. We got everybody. I mean, we have Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, and if you hate those guys, you can burn the coin or whatever. You can sell it. We'll have an exchange. We'll be like Dapper Labs and Top Shot. We'll have the $20,000 very, very secure, very, very legit, rare Sam Harris NFT. and we can just do every personality in the space too.
Yeah. Now NFTs are cool too. They why'd I go blurry there? Come on. NFTs are really cool too. A little bit of a different thing going on there, but the same technology in the background, I guess. But those are really neat too. The whole idea of you own the digital signature to this image or whatever, and um, it was really a neat way that you could like create your own stock market around anything. Honestly, I mean, like, and it shows like, because one of the things I've always been interested in is like retro video games and stuff. And the retro video games market goes up and down and crazy, and sometimes an old copy of a game might be several $1,000s and drop down to 500 in a week, and then back up. And so it kind of had a lot of similarities to that to me, and it was very unstable. But I mean, if you were able to buy in at a low price, there was the opportunity to make some money. But again, with the actual dropping your own coins and selling crypto, like your crypto portfolio and all that crap, yeah, the whole thing there was it was designed for scams.
Oh yeah, so there were so many big things that, like Sam Bankman-Fried, who was out there, well, this is going to change the world. This is, blah 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 blah, and then it turns out, no, you're just a con artist, and you're just stealing from people. That's all it was.
Well, they had these companies that knew how to do these, again, pump and dump is the terminology, but that knew how to do this. So they went to these big influencers on YouTube and stuff and said, hey, you can make all kinds of money. You just have to tell your people to buy this coin, and it'll show that it's worth all kinds of money, and you'll own most of them. And then at the end, you sell all yours off, and you're going to net millions of dollars. And a lot of them did, but they paid a price for it in the end. They lost a lot of their audience and a lot of their
the whole thing with the apes on Jimmy Kimmel and etc. and the musicians coming out, oh, I bought this and I bought that, and then they dropped the ape coin, and they had the cyber world, and it was, at that point, it was a giant production.
The ape stuff was kind of cool, though, I have to say.
Well, it was all cool. It was just designed, though, like any Ponzi scheme, to screw over the people that came in late, because eventually it runs out of steam. I think I believe the same thing about Bitcoin. Yeah, it's a super neat technology, blah blah blah. I wish I had bought it when it was $100 or $5 or whatever, but it's just not sustainable, in my opinion. And I flopped my viewpoint on this. When I first got into it, I was developing an NFT with an artist friend of mine. We had a whole plan. We were working on it, and then I realized, now this is just bad. So and it was listening to, there's a lecture by Taleb. I don't know if you're familiar with the guy that wrote The Black Swan. He's super smart in this, and he has some lectures on why Bitcoin's worthless. And I listened to that over and over, and I'm like, and I have plenty of arguments, because I have friends that still hold hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in Bitcoin, and I think they're insane, but they think they're right, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, right.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. Well, I mean, maybe maybe it'll still be valuable when they're in their 80s or 90s, and they'll be like, "See, I told you." But at some point, it has to fail. At some point, it has.
Yeah, right. It's not sustainable. Yeah. In the computer hardware sector, which is again an area that I mingle in a little bit. One of the most expensive things always that you could buy for your computer has been video cards, right? And when Bitcoin mining really started to jump up in popularity, the price of nice video cards went out the roof, because people were buying 8 of them at a time.
Yeah, everybody was farming. We talked about that too here. So I had some friends that wanted to pick up some secondary market PCs out of China. So it's actually my son-in-law. So my son-in-law does logistics out of China, and we were talking about bringing in computers to Mexico. But the problem here is Mexican electricity is super, 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 super dirt cheap at the lowest tier. So like my electric bill might be $10 a month, but when you get into the third tier, it's higher than anywhere in the States. So it's actually it's well designed for what it does. A very low income family can run the refrigerator and lights, no problem. They can easily afford it. But you start mining Bitcoin, you're going to be off the charts expensive. So it just was not practical to mine Bitcoin in Mexico unless you could steal power, which was another thing that you could do here. But I had no desire to,
right. I mean,
climb up on the pole and start wiring it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it. Well, that's where Bitcoin actually would make money if you're mining it with stolen electricity and just selling it. You're not using it as an investment. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course you can make money when you're stealing the power. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot of juice to run those rigs too. And if you have much of a setup at all, you're going to have to invest in cooling systems, which is more. And it's a big deal. But anyway, cryptocurrency, that's a conversation I haven't had on here yet.
Wow, yeah, crypto, atheist crypto. Well, if you don't mind, could we segue into something? I'm working on a video now of a Christian apologist who's responding to a Christy Burke thing, and she was saying that she was saying Christians don't argue fairly, and one of the arguments is they bring this false dichotomy that's either God made us or it's just random chance we're here. And she said, no, there's plenty of other possibilities. One being we live in a construct. Well, this guy ran with that as if she was saying she believed we were in a construct or that blah, blah, blah. And I always bring this up too. It's like we could be in a construct. I'm not saying I believe it, but what is your thought, coming in that industry? I look at computing being so insane. It's not like, to me, it seems more it seems there's more evidence that we live in a construct than we live in a world made by Yahweh. I mean, at least if I compare those two things, I find more evidence of computing power existing than supernatural power.
Yeah, I mean, we do have, although, I mean, of course so it's a complicated thing. That would require, first of all, technologies that we don't have yet, which that's not a big issue because you're talking outside this reality. So it's a really interesting thing, and I do agree with you. There are better arguments for that than there are for a specific God of any sort, or I would have to really think about it when it comes to like a deistic view, but for Yahweh especially, though, like you could definitely support living in a construct better. So I mean, it really gets down to this is a solipsism question at the end of the day, right? And there would be no way for us to, as things created within that construct, to identify it and pick it apart, because but again, technology, we're talking about some unknown technology, so maybe us AI
okay, but wait, I'm gonna
become self-aware.
Yeah, no, but I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. It's not completely unaware, it's just the level of it. Like, we understand how, like, the physics of a computer isn't complete mystery to us. We see how it works. You can put on a VR headset and you could see how it would be possible to think you're in on the moon or talking to Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. So we have some concrete evidence that these technologies have a foundational basis, whereas with theism, it's just the postulation that God did it, but there's not actually any evidence that God made the universe other than a philosophical one. There's not like a concrete. It's not like I can pick up my phone. I can say, look, this phone right here has technology that I can easily postulate that the technology in this phone can lead to some virtual world. I mean, obviously you have to add to it, but
I agree. And right. So we are able to, like, submersive experiences within like VR and stuff are getting better and better, and it's not a far leap to postulate something like that. Again, I don't just. I think you're kind of stuck in the same place though with that and God, as you're you can come up with some philosophical ways
Yeah.
that may work and stuff, but you're being aware of the because you're really just doing the same thing, right? Because it's still just another creator, and
Oh, yeah. So
but
I
the
got
way
an
is different.
I got an argument. I got an argument on Richard Carrier's blog about this, and he said, "Michael, you're sounding like a Christian." And I go, "Yes, I admit it. I'm sounding like a Christian. The difference is there is evidence that that virtual realities exist. I can put a headset on and participate in one. In fact, I did that. I put on whatever company. I think the Facebook one, the Meta, and you can talk to Darth Vader. Walks up to you and talks to you. Now
Yeah.
it's not real, but you're still experiencing it, and it looks realistic. It's what I'm saying. It's like that's a far cry. Like you and I can't call God Jesus can't come and have a drink with me. Like sorry, that can't happen. So
In
I don't
VR,
know.
you can.
Yeah, in VR. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Somebody's saying my mic's cutting out. Maybe I need to be closer. How's that?
Yeah, I think it's just where you were moving around a little bit.
I'm
there.
sorry. I get
No,
animated
you're
when I
fine.
talk. Yeah. So at the end, it was interesting. So Carrier's final argument against this was any superior being that had the technology to make a VR would also be morally superior enough not to do it. In other words, it's unethical to create beings that without consent. Now, I don't know if I agree. Like I agree what he's saying makes sense, but I don't agree with it as a rule because lots of smart people are sociopaths. Like, how do we know that a sociopath wouldn't have made this world, or a sadistic, brilliant computer scientist?
Well, here's the thing. Again, he's appealing to a philosophical position because that hasn't happened. So there's obviously no way for him to support that. But I don't think that that's necessarily true either. I think that yeah, that might be the common sense thing you would go to is they got that advanced because they were able to deal with all these other things. But
Right.
I don't know that would necessarily be true. I mean,
well,
a lot
even
of
if it was 999,999 advanced societies outlaw VR, one in a million does it. Well, in a universe with infinite universes, there you go. I mean, that means there's infinite bad actors, even if it's 1 in a million. There's infinite of them. So, yeah, it's a strange argument. So I listened. There's a South by Southwest conference talk by a guy named George Hotz, who was the first guy. He did it like when he was 15 or 16. He cracked the iPhone. He's really brilliant. So he gave a talk about this, and he said, if we're NPCs, how do you know? An NPC doesn't know it's an NPC. And so his talk was kind of, can we break out? Can we crack the code? Can we break out of the matrix if we're in it? And the answer is we don't know. We just don't know. Yeah. So it's an interesting and fun philosophical question. And the reason that I bring it up is simply because when Christians start arguing the Kalam or other arguments about, the first mover, ontological arguments, or whatever they throw out there philosophically, it's like, okay, fine, that's possible. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it still sounds a little bit fallacious if you don't include everything. Like if you're going to go there, you got to include all the possibilities, which was Christy Burke's point. There's thousands of options.
Yeah.
Could be a deist.
That I agree with.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to say supernatural beings are possible, then yeah. Okay. But a good one? Why? Why does he have to be good? Why can't he be mean? Why? Maybe it's a kid playing Minecraft. We could be in some, we could be in a Minecraft. A 13-year-old in another universe decided to make these humans, and he's enjoying us suffering the same as when we were kids. We used to kill ants. I don't know if you ever did that, but I was guilty when I was a little kid of squashing bugs and stuff. You just don't think about it. I try to be nice to not to cockroaches, but like spiders I save, flies, mosquitoes, cockroaches I kill. But
we used to tear apart the lightning bugs.
Oh, to try to get the
Yeah.
that was your first EDM concerts. You couldn't afford the you had to seemed
Yeah,
reasonable.
we tore apart the lightning bugs and had 1990s child raves.
Nice.
But yeah, there has to be. I mean, I agree with Christy Burke's point there. I think that it's a good point to make too, because a lot of times when dealing with apologists, it's either they have the view because I guess they can't fathom not being correct. I mean, so they have the view that it's either God or the world came from nothing means nothing and nothing matters, and
Yeah.
that's just me rejecting your God doesn't include all those things though at any
Right.
point.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, no, it is. You can end up with a lot of conundrums, paradoxes, and philosophical, ethical questions that are hard to answer. Like in the chat right now, they're arguing about like the consent and bringing in, and this is relevant to me because my girlfriend's pregnant. She's at about 9 weeks now, 10 weeks, and we had to have a long conversation about, is she ready to be a mom? Is she wanting to be a mom? Is she on board with being a mom? And we went through that, and we went to get the ultrasound, and we saw the teeny little fetus growing, and we heard the heartbeat, and we're both crying, and we're like, okay, we're on board for this. But we had to talk about that. Is the world, when I first met her, she said, I'll never have kids. The world is too ugly. But of course she didn't tie her tube. So I knew she was sort of hedging, So she had to reconcile that with herself. And these are good questions that she was asking. These are the kind of questions that if a God exists, he should have asked. Is it fair to bring somebody into this world? And so my answer to her is, hey, I got 3 kids. Talk to them. They all say I'm a great dad and I'll be a good father and life will be good. And yes, things can go bad. We can get hit by a bus. Bad things can happen to us. I know that. So it's a risk. And I told her that too. I said, look, it's a risk. But all things being equal, I'm confident that we can do a good job of being parents, and that our future child will not look at us and say, man, I'm mad that you brought me into this world. And I say that as somebody that had terrible parents. And I love my mom and dad, but they weren't very good parents. But I don't sit back here now and say, oh, I wish I wasn't born. Like, I'm glad my mom had me. And my mom was a teenager and, got pregnant out of wedlock and was not careful and blah, blah, blah. And I'm, and just to make the point here, I'm not arguing on conservatism. I'm totally 100% the right for a woman to decide for herself how to make these decisions, and it's her body. I'm 100% on board with that. But I also think it's a conversation that's worth having. Is like, is it ethical to bring kids into this world? And I mean, if we all decide no, we're going to go extinct. So I don't know. I mean, I tend to say, yeah, if you're being responsible and you've thought about it and you have the means and the emotional headspace to be loving and caring, and that you're going to work hard to do your part to make a good human, right? Because a parent could be really nasty and guide a kid to be a bad evil human. If that's the kind of person you are, you shouldn't have kids, I think. But if you're in general loving, empathetic, kind, and you et cetera, you have the headspace to do it, I think, yeah. I mean, if people didn't do that, none of us would be here talking. So
yeah. I mean, there's and also we get into like there's an evolutionary pressure to reproduce. But I agree with you. You may not know this about me. You may, I don't know, but I have a past history as a drug addict and a lot of crazy, awful stuff. And whenever my kid was born was kind of whenever I changed that, because at that point I was responsible for introducing a child into this world, at least partly,
right.
And
and was that sobering to you? Like, holy crap.
So it's a weird thing, really. I was already sick of my life before that happened. I just couldn't. I was already close to my rock bottom place, and whenever I knew that I was going to be having a son, the combination of those things made it a lot more clear in my head of what I needed to do and things. And initially, whenever I got clean, it wasn't to get clean. It was just to not be sick and to have a little extra money and it was just that kind of thing. But yeah, as I went on, and within the first month of my kid being home, though, I was like, okay, so far, I haven't struggled to provide anything for my kid, and there's nothing he wants for, and I want to continue to do that. So it was a bit of an extra drive to want to, give my kid the best possible life in what is not the best possible world. So yeah, but that was a big thing for me, though, because I do agree that there's a lot of nasty things in the world, and you can't protect a child from all those things. You sure would if you could, but you're not going to be able to do that. And unexpected things, bad things are going to happen. But if you have the if you're wanting to try and make a good life for a child and things, and you want to do that, then, and you're going to put in the work and the effort and stuff, then by all means, I wouldn't go as far to say you shouldn't do it. Like, there's an ethical reason not to do it because the world is this way. Like, if we all decided that, again, we would die out, and then there would be nobody. So you in the end up with something that's not very ethical at all.
Yeah. You definitely could. There's definitely a lot of paths you could go down where most people would think that's not a good, that option is not a good option. But like most things in life, it's gray areas. It's like finding our way in the, we have some boundaries that are obvious, but then in the middle, it's like not so obvious. And it does bring up a lot of questions when you were saying about like caring about our kids, and we can't predict everything. But it's an interesting, because I have this argument with Christians about free will and God. I always ask if God treated, if a human father treated his children the way that God treats humanity, if we're his kids, you would find him a monster, right? Because like and as a parent, this is very hard. So let's say your kid wants to learn to surf. No, so I have a son who did go surfing, and when he would go out on the weekend, and like in high school, him and his buddies would go surfing. I always knew there's a chance he's not coming back. I always know that when you're out in the water. And there was a time where they had a big problem. One of his friends got swept out, and it was a big deal. Like, they had to be rescued and so forth. And when they got back to shore, the father of the kid, so he had gone surfing with a kid that wasn't so experienced. The father thanked him, like, hey, you stayed with him. And he goes, yeah, my dad taught me if I'm surfing with my buddy, that either we both come back or neither of us come back. And that was what I taught him. I said, you don't come back alone. Now, obviously there's a limit to that, but the philosophy is, if you're out with your buddy, you guys watch out for each other. But you could still not come back, was the point, right? And as a parent, I could have said, hey, you're grounded from surfing. You can't, wait till you're 18. You can't ride a bike. You can't surf. You can't leave the house. And that's not, like, when we talk about free will, it's like, okay, you let your kid play in the playground. That doesn't mean you leave them there, at midnight, right? Like, and nobody says, oh, you're violating your 2-year-old's free will by not letting them swim alone. No, I'm not violating their free will. I'm being a good parent. And if God was a good, loving parent, that's what he would do. No kids would ever drown because he's always present, right? Yeah. Come on. It's just, to me, that's such an obvious argument against a good God. I mean, there might be a hands-off God, but certainly not a good God that cares about stuff. And
Yeah, I think if my the line of thinking, at least that I've been recently entertained with, I guess when talking about those kind of things is something that I partly picked up from Matt Dillahunty and something that is partly divine hiddenness kind of, and it's whenever you look at these events, God, of course, if a God exists, that God could have had it turn out any way that
Hmm.
God wanted because it's an all powerful being, right? So whenever you then look at, well, doesn't seem to follow the what an all loving God would do. It's for me that's one of the big contentions. I think is that the world we see doesn't match the world that should exist given the description of the Christian God or any
Yeah.
others really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does. The world could, with a loose definition of God, a super intelligence in the next universe up, and we live in a construct, would be considered a God. In fact, one of the arguments in the AI space now is we are creating what will be godlike to us, a being that is so much smarter than we are. And once it's capable, once it's out of the box, who knows what it's going to do, right? So in that sense, it, for all practical
Right.
purposes, it's a god. I mean, there might be intelligent beings on another planet in another part of the universe that if we met them, we would think they were godlike. I mean, who
Sure.
knows? So I could easily see how some type of what we would describe as a god could exist in this universe or in another. But without like direct evidence of it, it's just kind of, it's fun. It's just fun to talk about. It's not like we're not basing our life on it or making dogmatic statements about it. It's more like, hey, what if? And let's think about this. And then it allows us to have sort of a probability light cone that includes all these possibilities. And Yahweh and Jesus, yeah, okay, some version of them that isn't internally inconsistent can fall in there, but it's it's one in billions, if that.
Yeah. I'm kind of half laughing at the conversation going on in chat.
What are they talking about? Consent still?
Yeah, everybody's getting worked up.
Everyone's worked up. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very, so there's a if maybe if PC's listening and she's got a quick second to jump into the internet, pull up a book by Greg Egan, Egan. It's called I think it's called the Dysphoria or something, or oh gosh, I can't remember. Anyways, he's a hard sci-fi guy that deals with this very issue. So what is it? What is the name of it? It's called, I can't remember exactly, but it's a future. It's a sci-fi book that takes place in the future when these very intelligent um, computer constructs have they now live, but there's still people that are stuck on Earth in their flesh bodies, and there's something coming to destroy the Earth, like a black hole, something, I don't know, something's coming. And so the question is, do we rescue the humans, and to what degree do we rescue the humans that are still living on Earth in their flesh? Yeah, dysphoria. Thank you, PC. You're right. So the one of the characters saves somebody against their consent at the last second because they don't have time to they don't have time to ask them if they want to be saved. They just save them. And so it creates this massive argument about whether that was the right thing to do or not. And then the underlying part of the story is how they come up with a new sentient being in virtual space. And there is parents that can do it. So like two virtual beings can put together the parts of them that they like and make another virtual being. But the system also creates these orphans. So the main character of the story is an orphan who comes into existence and has to figure out life. And there's all kinds of rules and all kinds of arguments about how when they can self-destruct, when is it ethical to stop their coming into being. And so if we put it to if we put it to us having, humans having babies, yeah, there's a lot of ethical questions there about, and it's another thing we can say about God. If he was really a truly loving God, he wouldn't have had ovulation being hidden. He wouldn't have had men. Oh, Non-Stamp Collector has the best video on this about God and Satan are having a poker game, and Satan keeps upping the bet to God, and God just can't fold his hands, so he agrees to all these things that Satan wants, and it's a hilarious video, but it's highlighting the idea of how God made this, bringing about humans through sexual congress with billions of sperm and hidden ovulation, and how our waste system and our reproductive system are all intertwined. If anyone's never seen that Non-Stamp Collector one, it's super hilarious.
Let's see here. All right. If it violates being a being to bring them into the world, is it a violation of their consent to not bring them into the world? Implied consent. I mean, I think there's a problem with how we define those words, first of all, and who is capable of giving consent. Because just because a being is living and thinking, like a baby can't consent to anything anyway, even if it's already here. So I don't know that really matters, which is where this conversation started. But if it violates a being to bring them into the world, so it's given that it violates them to bring them into the world. Is it a violation of consent? Well, no, because that would be a contradiction. That would be a paradox. You can't have it both ways.
The second part of the question is obvious to answer. If it was a violation of their consent, it would mean that you would have to try to get pregnant if you're a woman, or try to impregnate as many women as you could. Because every time you masturbated, you'd be wasting all those potential lives. So, and every time, if you were a woman, every time that you ovulated without pregnancy, you would be denying the existence of this potential being. We could play this game all day long. You basically say, well, how many children could a healthy woman have in her life if she really tried and started at 14 and went till she was in menopause? Well, and then you could say, well, if she could have 20 kids and only had 19, she would be violating someone's consent. Obviously, this is a fallacious bullshit argument. Now, but the other side of the argument is a fair question. Who should have kids? Should anybody be able to have a kid? Should society make some rules?
Responsible breeding, folks.
Yeah, responsible breeding. Right. I mean, that is a very fair question. Like, in a perfect world, nobody would get pregnant without it being a very difficult choice that they had to. Like, if I was God, I would make it so the only time you got pregnant is if you did, the sex would be painful, hard, and difficult, and you would hate it, and you'd have to work at it for like a year or two.
It wouldn't be enjoyable, would it?
You would never have an orgasm. It would just be totally terrible. And all the good, fun sex that had climax after climax, that would never result in kids. So yeah, I mean that's a simple fix for God right there that would ensure the only time a child came into the world is if the parent really fucking worked hard at it and proved they were responsible and proved that they really wanted it and they worked hard. It's not like things that, like, if you want a nice body with big muscles and you want to be slender, you got to go to the gym for at least a few months or a year. It doesn't just happen because you snap your fingers.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, but you can have a kid after 5 minutes of fun.
Yeah,
with
right.
No work at all.
Which is what happens a lot of times.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I think my feeling is that you're misplacing the ethical question, because it's not if it violates the child you're bringing into the world. Is it a moral decision for you to bring a child in the world? if you can't care for that child. And I think that that's based on principles and a subjective view of what you think your morals are concerning that. I mean, some people may feel that they're completely capable of raising a child and then have one and not realize what a big thing that is, and be awful at it. And some people may think they'll make awful parents, as I did, and have a kid on accident, but end up doing a pretty decent job. At least I feel I have, they're happy, so I think that, and also a being that isn't brought into the world doesn't have a consent to be violated. So, not that they could,
unless you talk to the Mormons. If you talk to the Mormons, they have a theology that that
like presupposes souls and shit, don't it?
Yeah, they're pre-existent souls. So you could take the other argument. You could say that God's design was to be fruitful and multiply. God has a plan for you, and He wants you to have a quiver of arrows or whatever it is. And if you don't have 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever many kids, you're screwing somebody over that was supposed to be born.
Yeah,
you could argue that. Sure,
yeah, that's weird.
It is a weird, it is a very weird argument. But I mean, many religious faiths believe that's essentially true, like Catholics and the Quiverful movement, and many modern evangelicals don't have a problem with getting a vasectomy or tubal ligation, but many Christians do think those things are wrong. Like with anything, there's Christians on both sides.
I have a question for Jim Bob out there. Have you been to my channel before and maybe joined a stream under a different account named Jim Bob, maybe? But I'm not going to sit and wait on an answer for that. Jim Bob, I hope that we addressed your question. I hate that you felt like I don't know you, and whatever issues and arguments you may have with others in this community, you and I have never directly interacted. And so I'm always willing to try and give someone the benefit of the doubt, at least for a single conversation, And so I do try to address your questions. It's just I was kind of just watching it in the chat and seeing what was going on. Everybody seemed to be interacting a lot, which is a good thing for them and me. So I was just going to kind of let it go, but I don't care to address your questions at all. I'll admit if I don't know, or if I'm just some dude from Kentucky. I just answer honestly the way I feel, or say I don't know. But anyhow, back on track a little bit here. Sorry about that. I get wrapped up in the chat every now and then. I'm bad about that, especially during live streams.
It's easy. It's easy to. Well, you have good moderators out there, so you can just.
Oh yeah.
You can pretend. If something's important comes up, PC can yell at us and say, "Hey, answer this."
PC and Robin are both out there, and I have excellent moderators. All of my moderators are excellent, but those two will definitely not let things go anywhere they shouldn't. They're really good about that. Joe gets distracted by shiny things. The chat is where it's at anyway. Yeah, I agree with that sometimes. That's how I got into doing this, was heated conversations in chats and other places. I got tired of waiting for 2 minutes to answer somebody back on the line, and I was like, damn it, I'm going to go make a video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the audience participation and being able to connect with people and
no, for sure. That's a big driving thing for me. I live in, rural Kentucky area, and it's not like there's a lot of atheists for me to have conversations with about these kind of things that can see past their book, to have an honest conversation. So it's definitely a lot of community, and this is much of my social life now. And honestly, I'm probably happier now with that aspect of my life than I ever have been in the past. Just getting to meet like-minded people and have hard conversations and learn things and all that. It's been awesome. So that's a big driving force for me, is the community. And I'm very sometimes hypersensitive about issues to do with the atheist community. I get perturbed sometimes when people attack my friends.
Yeah.
But the I think that I think that conversations with apologists, though, like, I don't care to have a conversation about whatever, like if there's something that you think you want to bring to me to talk about, I don't care to have that conversation if you can do it in an honest way and you're not going to be, um, a prick about it. But apologists, a lot of times, and I've seen this more recently, is they've tried to shift away from even talking about God. It's became an attack on atheists because they want to like force us to defend atheism and morality and all this other stuff, and never get to the point to where they have to actually provide any good reason for believing in a God or a specific God. And so I really quit trying to argue that point because we never get there. It's always, we atheists are inconsistent. Well, of course we are, because we only agree on one thing. Like the but so I've had a lot better luck myself with trying to have conversations about what is it you actually believe and what made you think that thing is true. Like, I don't want your arguments. I'd rather talk about why you are convinced. I don't want you to convince me. I mean, you can attempt that, but it's going to be hard for a specific God.
Sure. No, it's interesting how if you get somebody talking about the personal stuff, because they'll quite often admit that the reality is they came to belief on emotions, or they came to belief through an experience. I have found that to be very consistent. So one of the things I want to know in that situation is, well, why bother with all the evidence? Why, like, what is all the apologist stuff about? Well, what's your point? Like, you're admitting that that's not that isn't what made you believe. So just, why not just stop the apology gig and just pray for people silently in your prayer closet?
Right.
And if God wants us to know him, he'll, or she, or they, or it
I
will
think the
show
Bible
up.
agrees with that too, right?
I think for sure. Right. But there's this whole thing with proselytizing and making
and going
arguments,
out and making public displays.
And the key to that is understanding they're not doing it to try to change any atheists. They're doing it to keep people in the fence who are maybe leaving the ranch, and they're also doing it to convince themselves. And I think that's probably one of the main
I think
the main
so too.
things.
I think you're very right. I think there's an insecurity there, because were you previously a Christian, Michael?
Yeah, 38 years.
Okay.
I can start praying in tongues right now if you want.
We might do that in a little bit. But, I was a Christian for most of, well, up until I was 25. I was very involved in the church and all those things. So, like, I know that Christians aren't 100% confident in their position. And not that you have to be for it to be correct, but that poses a problem when you continue to bring the same old broken arguments over and over and over that you've been shown over and over and over why they are wrong. And you have this doubt, but then you refuse to accept the information that confirms you should have that doubt. So I think that's where it gets into, like, that's why I don't like just hearing their arguments, because I feel like it's bound to end up in a dishonest place. And again, I value honesty a lot when it comes to having, discourse. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's and the thing I always tell people, don't lie to yourself. Like, the rest of us already know when you're bullshitting, but sometimes it seems like you're lying to yourself and you're tricking yourself to believe it. Like, stop doing that. Like, just step back for a minute and tell yourself. Yeah, well, tell yourself you want to be honest, and tell yourself that you're not afraid of the truth, and tell yourself that you'll accept the truth, or you'll accept, the probabilities of things being right or wrong based on looking into it and being honest with it. I mean, because none of us ever get to the absolute truth. It's impossible. Like, we don't know, but we can rule some stuff out, right? We can rule out the praying in tongues 3:30. Oh yeah. 3:30. Which time zone?
Yeah.
I was never good in the choir stuff because I can't sing and I can't hold a tune. I have no.
Me neither.
I wish I could sing. Unfortunately, no.
I keep making funny faces. I work outside cutting grass. I help run a lawn company and we cut a lot of yards and stuff. It's kind of it's a lucrative thing here in Eastern Kentucky for about 9 months out of the year. But I got hit with a water hose handle.
Oh, ouch.
Right here, and my eye's black and my face is swollen, so I keep trying to, like, it hurts to smile sometimes. So I keep grabbing my face, just if anybody wonders why I'm being weird.
Do you get to drive a tractor around like one of those John Deere lawnmower tractors?
I ride a 0-turn mower, a 54-inch.
Man,
yeah.
I want to come visit you just so I can do that one afternoon, just once.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I did it in Texas. So I have an ex-wife who's from East Texas, and when we go visit, you get to drive that thing around and mow the lawn. Super fun.
It's fast too.
Yeah.
Let's tie that into something here though. So September 7th is the Kentucky Free Thought Convention, and you can come ride my mower if you want.
Yeah, no, yeah, I would definitely love to. Unfortunately, with my finances in my life, my next trip to the States, hopefully, knock on wood, will be Christmas. So I'll be in Virginia. My son just got transferred from Germany back to the States.
Well, feel free to stop in Kentucky.
Yeah, if I can, I certainly would.
I'll buy you dinner.
Yeah, that's a tempting offer for sure. I know one of the first places I'm going is the Waffle House when I land in Virginia.
Oh, right on.
I love.
Oh, you're flying into Virginia?
Well, I'm not sure. So I actually, we haven't coordinated this yet. My daughter is moving to Dallas, but she's been studying for the bar, so she's not really available. Hopefully, wow. In fact, I don't know. I think she's taking the test this week. So at some point in the next week or so, she'll be available for me to chat with, and I'm going to see if she wants to drive from Dallas up to Richmond. And if that's the case, then that would be fun. Maybe we'll drive through Nashville or something. And
yeah.
But I don't know if that would be really fun to do.
Yeah.
So
pop dreams.
Yeah. Well, she's got dogs, and a lot of times she likes to do road trips because that way she can take the dogs. So who knows? That we haven't had that conversation yet, but I'm hoping so. Yeah, I flew into Dallas once, and I got the rent-a-car and drove straight to the Waffle House. It was 11 or 12 at night. I'm like, yeah, that's my first stop. For whatever reason, they don't have Waffle Houses in Southern California, at least when I lived there. Maybe they do now.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, and PC also brought up Baja Con's getting ready to start.
Where's that?
That's in Canada. Ontario, maybe. I don't know. Canada.
Baja sounds like Mexico. I thought,
I know.
Make that. Well, I actually want, as I get a little bit more established and have a little bit more influence through my channel and know more people, I'm going to talk to people about doing a conference down here in Guadalajara, because I've had tons of people tell me they want to come visit me, and that would be a good way to do it.
So let me tell you what I'm doing.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm not, of course, a big YouTuber or anything. I have a small channel. I feel like I have a good connection with the audience I have, though. Which is really what I was looking for. If it never grew another subscriber, it wouldn't really be a big deal. I would still have a blast. But so there, as you may know, there has been a protest at the Ark Encounter on the anniversary of its opening since it opened here in Kentucky. And this year I was planning to go to that and had invited a bunch of people to come hang out in Kentucky, and we were going to go to the protest together and then kind of just party and hang out that weekend, just socialize. And the Tri-State Free Thought is the group that usually puts that on and provides all the resources and stuff. Well, they decided they're not going to do it again till the 10th anniversary, and I think this year was going to be the 7th.
Okay.
And so they offered to give me all of their resources to put on that protest myself. and I'm not a big planner of things and stuff. That's not a good idea. But I didn't really have the time to put that together. But they did make the offer to give me the signage and the stage and speakers and tents and I mean like everything I need, and even the guy even offered up his house for us to come party in afterwards.
Wow.
And it's local there, and so I since they won't be doing it till the 10th year, I'm probably going to organize that this year and try to invite speakers and probably cover flying some people in even
Nice.
to speak at that. So that's a big thing I've ended up getting mixed up in, but I'm really excited to do it honestly because I mean not only are they wrong and all that, but like Ken Ham and AIG actively ripped off Kentucky taxpayers in order to do what they're doing, and they continue to do it to this day. And they have pulled all kinds of shady stuff in order to keep this thing doing, and it's been nothing but harmful. And that's not to mention the fact that they load that auditorium with school children and make them repeat lies like the earth is 6,000 years old and man walked with dinosaurs. So they have expanded into the homeschooling area now and are providing homeschooling material for children in several countries, actually, to teach these things. So I am 100% behind going and setting up an event there to protest the Ark Encounter and Creation Museum. But yeah, so that's what I ended up with. And
yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I have to get some people in place that can do a better job planning and getting those things set up than I can, because if it's left up to me alone, it'll just be a jumble fuck mess. And that's not what I'm trying to do. If I'm going to do it, I want it to be good. And
yeah, well, anything like that takes a lot of different minds and a lot of different tasks. So that's one of the reasons I haven't really seriously considered yet, but it's in my mind of wanting to organize something for Guadalajara. There's a gay pride parade in Guadalajara every summer. That's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in Mexico. It's a huge deal. So that might be a good. I think it's in. I want to say it's in June. It's a little bit hot here when it happens, but something like that might be a fun thing where people would want to come down, and the lodging here is dirt cheap. Food here is dirt cheap. The flights are no more expensive than flying anywhere in the States. So, I think it would be something people would. It's certainly cheaper than flying to Canada. I mean, if people are going to Canada for a conference, they can come here probably for half that, whatever they spend, or half or less. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would be interested in it.
Yeah. I would love to do that stuff, but I can't get out of the country. Or I can't get into other countries.
No, Mexico you can. There's no rules here, dude. Yeah, somebody just asked in the chat, Michael lives in Mexico. Yes, I lived in Mexico. When I first moved to Mexico, I didn't even have my passport. It was being processed. I just crossed the border. You can come here, Joe. You're welcome. Don't worry.
Okay.
There's no restrictions to Mexico. Now, maybe if you were a migrant worker from Guatemala going north from the southern border, I think the Mexicans do crack down on that kind of stuff, and probably because it's funded by America.
Yeah.
But
now, I don't need a passport to cross the border.
Yes, you do. I'm just saying I came without one.
Oh.
Yes, you need a passport, but well, you can get a passport, can't you? Are you restricted?
I don't think so.
Nah, anyone can get a passport. Well, yeah, of course you can get a passport.
Yeah, that would be a federal ID, so I should be able to get that actually.
Yeah, no,
I was told before that I couldn't, and I've just never tried to cross any borders.
If you're still on probation or parole, you can't get a passport. If you have one, they might take it away. But if you're not on probation or parole, then yes, you can get a passport. Now, some countries, Commonwealth countries, you can't enter with a felony. So this was a big deal with, was it Jay-Z and Rihanna? There was a concert where a big rock star went to Australia and they wouldn't let him in the country. They're like, sorry, you got a felony.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't go. You won't be able to go into. Well, you couldn't go to Canada, for instance,
Right.
England, Australia, New Zealand. But
Yeah.
Mexico is super simple.
Well,
Yeah. So as Robin just said in the chat, I used to cross in Juarez, and they don't ask for. So it used to be they just asked for a driver's license, but then it changed to a passport maybe 20 years ago. But my point being is, Joe, let's say you needed to escape America, just call me up. I'll help you. You just cross the border with Mexicans and you're done. And once you're in the country, nobody cares.
Apparently Jim Bob is playing a clip of me right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Hey, Amber. Hey, Maya. Good to see you. Glad you guys came. Yeah. No, I looked into once going on a cruise, and the particular cruise I was looking at had excursions, where they stop at different places. You can get off and go visit those places. And um, I was trying to get a passport for that, and I couldn't. And what the cruise line told me was that as long as I left and came back through the same port of entry, all I needed was ID. Just don't get in trouble or get hung up in one of those other countries,
Yeah. Yeah, that used to be how it was even coming to Mexico with a land crossing. All you needed was a driver's license, but that changed a little bit. And then, post 9/11, everything changed a lot. So there's definitely a lot more. Yeah, we can be friends down here in Guadalajara. Guadalajara is a great place for progressives. It's a very progressive city, and it's a lot of fun. Not that I'm fun anymore. Anybody that's into fun missed that boat during the coming out of COVID before, when I was single and had money to spend on various copious amounts of bad ideas.
Been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of good times for sure. But yeah, so during COVID, the Mexican president said, "Hey, we're open arms here in Mexico. Jesus will protect the babies from COVID, and everything's good. You're welcome." So we had very loose controls here. Now the states did close down. A lot of the cities were very tightly controlled. Bars and restaurants were shut down and stuff for a long time. But getting into Mexico, like if I was in the States and if I was in trouble and I need to come back to Mexico, I think it was Robin who said in the chat she used to cross in Juarez. You just go to one of the small border crossings and you just cross the border.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, copious amounts of bad ideas that was my specialty for a long time.
Hot Totten.
Yeah, but I mean now I have to be. Well, I shouldn't say I have to be. I've chosen to be responsible and kind of calm my life down and make my girlfriend feel secure and try to save money and be building a future.
Yeah. What I always say about, because my bad ideas were really, really bad for a while. What I always say is that I became an adult at about 35 years old.
Yeah.
And I started getting, like, my life sucked when I did drugs and was high all the time and stuff. But at the same time, I enjoyed being high and had a blast doing it sometimes. Yeah. But once I had grown up a little bit, now I find more satisfaction in taking care of my family and having memorable, great times with them. A couple years ago, I had an artificial valve put in my heart, and I tick now. And I was in the hospital for 2 months and came really close to death multiple times. And so my perspective after that kind of changed a little bit on how I feel about, like, my family and spending time with them and stuff like that. I didn't. It's a weird thing because they even asked me before I went in surgery. I think they asked me. I was loopy. But somebody had asked something about now, don't be scared of dying, or you're not scared of dying, and don't freak out and all that. And I was like, honestly, I'm not scared of death. I'm worried about my children growing up without me. You know, that was the thing that came to mind. So it really kind of changed my perspective on that kind of stuff a lot. And
Yeah.
um, that's it's just there had to be several different things that came together in the course of me getting sober that made me want to do it and made me able to stay that way. And I mean, I've been clean for like almost 10 years now. And it's none of them. I mean, you could look at that and say, well, all those things had to happen. It's God.
Yeah.
But
that was the path he had chosen for you, right?
Yeah. And the no atheists in foxholes stupid ass argument that's made sometimes.
Yeah.
I can tell you, not at any point during the time that I thought I was going to die for sure did I ever consider the God or heaven or any of that may be real. It never even crossed my mind. I didn't think about atheism or religion, either one. I was concerned with other things.
Yeah, no, I hear you. My son-in-law, one of my son-in-laws does skydiving, and he told me he had a issue once where he thought there's a good chance I'm not going to survive this. Like, he had an equipment malfunction, and he said the idea of calling on God or believing in God, like, just never crossed his mind. The only thing he was thinking about was, trying to fix the problem, and he fixed it, obviously, because he's still around. But yeah, no, I can't imagine myself being in a position where I would be like, oh, maybe you're there, Jesus, save me. No, I don't. Like, I think I have more self-respect to ever do that. But
I think it's really weird that, like, okay, so right before the heart thing, I had a motorcycle wreck too, and was kind of banged up and laid up for months over that. But all those things and like surviving and being able to now take care of my family and stuff. I think a lot of Christians look at that, well, God did this for you and made it to where, God saved you and all this. But I mean, at the same time, I look at it as, if that's true, then God did all those things to me also. Like, you asshole.
Yeah.
You could have just whispered in my ear,
Well, and he also made our brain susceptible to addiction. Like, why? Yeah. Like, he could have made it not so easy to be addicted to carbohydrates. That would be my complaint. It's like, Jesus. It's weird. Like, I can go out with friends. Like, I don't do this anymore, but I could go out before with friends and we could do coke all weekend, and then I could not touch it again for weeks.
Right.
Other people can't do that, obviously. And I found the same thing with alcohol and other vices. But when it comes to carbohydrates and eating, when I get either anxious, depressed, and now I'm pregnancy eating now, it's terrible. I just find myself my girlfriend would be like, I'm so hungry, and I'm like, okay, well, what can I make you? So I'll go to the kitchen, and then of course I'm eating too, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm gonna gain 40 pounds if I don't watch it. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, it's crazy. But it's like, I'll sit there and as I'm opening a Snickers bar, I'll say, like, am I doing this because I really want to? Like, I don't think I have any choice. I'm just doing it. Like, I can't help myself. The only thing I can do, and this is why I kind of believe in compatibilism and not total lack of free will, because if I'm at the store, I can make a conscious choice. I'm not going to buy Oreos and Snickers bars and a gallon of milk and Frosted Flakes. Like, I'm like, here's where the choice is. I'm making a free will in my own whatever capacity.
Don't do it.
I'm not buying because I know if I buy the Oreos, I will eat them when they're in the house. But as long as they're not in the house, it's not like I wake up or get out of bed at midnight and go to the store to buy Oreos. That doesn't happen. But if they're in the house, that's a different story. So anyways, that's that. But I found my relationship with drugs and sex being, frankly, it's liberating to be able to do that and not be addicted and not be destructive. But if I acted the same way with cocaine that I do with Oreos, who knows, I might not be alive, because when it's cheap and easy and and it's just around you, it's just so easy to do it. So I don't know. I mean, who knows why those things? Is it genetics? Is it luck of the draw? Did Yahweh specially design us for our, our weaknesses? So some of us are. Yeah, like I mean, yeah. It's just silly to think that, but
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I suppose it's possible.
It's conspiracy theory thinking.
Yeah.
And not to, just something you said kind of rang a bell with me there is, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, but whenever you're used to partying and doing drugs and things, and then you step back and stop those things, it does have an effect on your sexual life. Like and it takes a minute to get over that. And it's a weird thing. You have to like rediscover all of those emotions and passion and all those things that go into that. And a lot of times people who are in relationships and they've, their sex life is based around drugs and things like that. Mm-hmm. They can't carry on afterwards because it's not the same people essentially. But right. One neat thing, my girlfriend and I, we were together when we were on drugs. We got clean together and we're still together now. And that was kind of a weird place for us because, we were used to getting high and partying and mm-hmm. having wild sex, and then we, after getting clean, it's not the same thing. It's more of an emotional, there's other things tied to it. Then there's feelings and emotions and all those things tied to it. And I'm not saying that it has to be for those of you that disagree with my position. That's just how I am. And stopping drugs was had a huge effect. That's one of the places in my life it probably had the biggest effect, because for a long time I just wasn't. I didn't feel right about it and stuff. Like it just wasn't the same, and I wasn't doing the same things that I mm-hmm. did, right. And on a coke bender, so right. But yeah, it was just interesting that you brought that up as all.
No, yeah, it's an interesting thing. So one of my girlfriend's fears is if I'm out doing MDMA, I'll have gay sex. And so it's very cultural here in Mexico that if you're that you can have a side chick that's just accepted as being normal. But if you have a side guy, that's the end of the world. So so for her, she said, look, and I asked her, why is that? And she says, well, because if people found out that you fucked a guy, that would destroy me. I'd be so shamed. It would be okay, fine. I won't do that. But I also, it's not like I can tell her, oh, next week I'm going to go to a friend's house and party and we're going to do drugs, because she's just in her mind. She knows what that leads to. So it's like, so I've partially given up that out of just my love and respect for her. Yeah, although it's a bit of
it changes what you want to do because of
right. It's like, so I can relive some of my memories, and I'm still glad that I did them. Yeah. But yeah, there is a lot of a difference. Now there's also a double standard in our relationship because she's a lot younger than me, so she goes out, she does what she does, and I'm like, yeah, do what you do. But for her, it's like there's. So I asked her, I said, what are the rules for me to have a side girl, like a little sugar baby? And she's like, oh, if you want a sugar baby, you have to get me a new car, a nice house, and money in the bank, and then that's fine. And I go, can I get an apartment? And she goes, no, you can't spend money on her like that. You can fuck her, but you can't have
her as long as you're spending money on me.
Well, right. So it's the emotional attachment. So you can't have an emotional attachment. Right. You can't spend, you can spend a little bit of money. So she was telling me the other day about going to like a motel or something, and she had to pay. And I'm, what the fuck are you paying for a motel for? And she's like, because I'm the one that wanted to fuck. And I'm like, oh, well, that's fair. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. You're spending my money. She goes, no, that was my money. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. When you spend your money, it means that my money spends, like, it means I have to cover the loss. And she's like, no, I earned that money. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then like, can't you get the fucking guy to pay? She's like, no, like, I was the one. Like, so she takes on the role of the male, like I'm going to pay for the hotel and she's directing the traffic. And I like, that's fine. It's one of the things that I love about her, that she's pragmatic and she's mostly reasonable, but not completely reasonable. Because if she was completely reasonable, she wouldn't care if I went off on a weekend and sucked a dick. She'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. But she can't, because the machismo and the culture of it. So I've already promised her no gay sex. It's not that big of a deal for me to give that up. Like, yeah. And for the most part, like I don't go out, I work on YouTube and I do my work. So it's not even like I don't have a sugar baby or a side girl or, I'm not into that stuff for pragmatic reasons. Plus I'm older, my testosterone dropped, after I got in a relationship, the first thing that happens when, at least in this part of Mexico, once you have a stable relationship with a woman, the mom wants you to get married and they feed you like crazy. Like, here's another piece of cake. I'm like, you guys want me to be fat. Like, you want me to be like in this constant thing of family events, family and overeating at everything. I'm like, nah, I want to step back from that thing. Yeah. But it's a real culture thing about jealousy and possession. And so I've been working through, like, she's a lot different from how she was before. And she also, and come on, she does what she does. So she can't get too much on the double standard. Right. And well, and I mean, it is what it is. I understand her.
Different cultures have different stigmas on certain sexual activities. I would never pretend to be able to give you advice on such a thing, because that's not my experience. But through conversations that I have had with people in polyamorous relationships and stuff, I would just caution you to be careful of trying to oppress desires and things, because I feel like that puts you in a bad place, maybe. But it seems like you are making yourself happier with this, rather than denying yourself something that you're after necessarily.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing is, it's like, I'm old. I've been around the block a few times, and I what I do, I'm choosing to do on my own. And so part of just being in a relationship is choosing to not do things that you would do if you were single. And I'm not even talking about sex. I'm just talking about picking up golf, for instance, or going to play poker. Like, I haven't gone to the casino and played poker, which I really love. I haven't done that in years, and I really love to go play poker. I just don't do it. Not because I couldn't. I could do it. I mean, I could go tonight if I wanted, or tomorrow. I just choose not to, and I just find my happiness in the things that I'm doing, working towards.
I can set up an atheist poker stream.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Atheist poker. Yeah. Or we can lie because we don't have any objective morality, so we can lie and cheat and steal.
We haven't grounded our morality in
But yeah. So those things, when you think about the economics of it, it's like, it's very simple. If you choose to have a hamburger for dinner, then you're not having pizza or a steak or shrimp. Like, you're giving something up. You're always giving something up. If you decide that you're going to buy a Labrador, then you're giving up the pit bull. If you decide that you're going to be into riding horses, you're giving up the motorcycle, which I highly recommend. And it's the same with anything. Like, you want to take up scuba diving. Well, nobody has enough hours in the day to be good and safe at scuba diving and afford scuba diving, and also golf, and also tennis, and also, rock climbing. Right. So you always have to make these choices. So I just put, like, the parties and the sex in the same bucket. Like, okay, it's just another thing. that
it's a product of that lifestyle, right?
yeah. And I, you know, there's things I miss, and I think they'll in the future, I think as things get more settled and we have more time under our belt, because I know I've been in relationships for a long time, it's like, okay, maybe we can loosen up the rules a little bit here, because so we stay happy and we stay happy about life and so forth. But all of those things, what's nice about not being in a religious based relationship and not having this overarching God Bible community is now you get to decide these things and work them out as, you know, rational adults, as opposed to being treated like a child and having your friends and your community be judgmental.
It does give you a lot more satisfaction when you come to a conclusion that works for you and seems to be somewhat sustainable. You know, there's it's accountability is the thing I always refer to, because it's important that we take accountability for the bad things that we do, but it's also important that we take accountability when we're responsible for making positive changes in our life, and recognize that this is the thing that's right for me and makes me happy and benefits people and does less harm and all those things, you know, all the different principles that you put into it. So I think that's awesome, and a really interesting position on that stuff. Honestly, I like it.
It's both more liberating and more scary, because now you're responsible, right? For the good and the bad. So you can say, if I make a good choice and I do good things, where most of us, I think, that used to be Christians know when we used to say things like that Jesus helped us do X, or
by the grace of God.
And now it's like, no, if I do something good out of the goodness of my heart, or my being empathetic or kind or sacrificing, it's because I chose to, and I made a choice to do that, and I get the credit. And if I screw up, okay, fine, I'll take the blame. And it's a way nicer place to be. Way more. Yeah, it means we're like trying to be adults.
You get a certain inner peace when you have a moment to sit down and reflect. Do you feel like you're doing the right things that are right for you and what's important to you? I mean, do you feel satisfied in that aspect of it?
I mean, I feel like right now, so the YouTube stuff to me is like, you know, I work at this a lot, like sometimes 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I mean, to me, it's like a job, but it's something I really am enjoying. So that this is a new thing, to be doing something that I really like, and I'm seeing positive stuff out of it. I like the fact that we're not, it's not like we're poor, but we're struggling compared to back when I was single and I was making a lot of money and wasting it all. And I can look back and say, God, if I had only saved some money and been smart.
I just figured this out then.
Now if I'd only known what I know now, even though people were telling me back then. But now so I sort of look at it like it's a little bit of it's a little like life's a game. And this is one of the things when I'm talking to my girlfriend about when we're struggling about stuff, I said, look at it like when you're playing Grand Theft Auto or Free Fire is the big one in Mexico. I don't know if you guys play that in the States, but it's been about 2 or 3 years now where everybody's on their phone playing this game. Free Fire. It's like the first person shooter, but you team up with your friends. I guess it's similar to other games, but it's on your phone and blah, blah, blah. So if you look at life that way, it's a game, and we got to level up, and we got to do these certain routines to get there. Yeah, to me, it's kind of like, okay, then we can be happy in the place that we're at now. We don't have to be sad that we're not in the luxury apartment and driving the Porsche. We can be happy in where we're at, and we can be. And now there's a limit to that. I don't want to over.
Sure, you always
struggle.
There's ambition and of course guilt and regret for some things, and all those things are always going to come into it. But I mean, if you feel like you're going in the right direction and stuff, then I'm happy for you. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, I made my channel like 2 years before I ever put out any content. Never put out the first thing. I wanted to. I was just kind of like not sure what to do and kind of scared of it, honestly. And I didn't want to be in front of a camera. And for the first half of what I've done so far, I wasn't on camera. But once I kind of found that having conversations with people and stuff was kind of my niche, like I then was able to realize that was kind of the thing that was missing, the missing piece to talk about something that's important to me and something that I've dealt with and to have conversations with people that are in the same community, only not necessarily have to talk about God and all that the whole time, because that's not really the point, but be able to have conversations with other atheists about their lives and the normal things that they do, because it's sometimes I feel out of place being in Eastern Kentucky as an atheist,
Oh,
so,
yeah, you're in a place where it's not exactly normal, right? Like,
right.
I've been in the South before. I understand.
In my immediate area, it's probably about 98% Christians, and a big portion of those are young Earth creationists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and I was raised young Earth creationist.
Yeah, I was a young Earth creationist too. I want to say I was in my early 20s when I read Hugh Ross. Are you familiar with that? He's a Christian astrophysicist, an old Earth guy. Anyways, somebody turned me on to Hugh Ross's book, and I read it. And then I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I just looked at the islands and said, "This can't be 6,000 years old unless God's a trickster God, because of the different islands have eroded over time by a vast amount." So I said, "Okay, I can't believe in a trickster God." And this Hugh Ross guy makes a lot of sense. So, okay, fine. I accept the world's old, but I still was 100% evolution's wrong. Evolutionists are dumb. The eyeball, just look at the eyeball. Look, there's no way that could come. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I was 100% there.
Irreducible complexity.
Yeah. No, totally.
No, so I was, the thing for me was whenever I got in college and started to learn, a bit about biology and geology and physics. And it was there were things that I just couldn't reconcile with the belief that I had. And so I went looking for ways to still confirm that belief. And I found more and more information that refuted those points. And the more I looked, the more I found. And eventually I discovered Christopher Hitchens. And
that's hardcore.
Bill Honey and Arn Ra on the Atheist Experience, and saw these people talking about how they dealt with those things and the deconversion stories of other people and stuff like that. And it really just eventually I got to the point where I was like, I had been on the border of it for a little bit. I'd been thinking about it anyway. And I eventually just got to the point where I was like, I just don't believe this is a thing. It's obviously just man-made superstition and fairy tales, essentially. And so I say those things, but I do think that, because of the world we live in, theology obviously plays an important role. And now I don't think that our country's completely based on Christian idealism and all that crap, but I do think that you have to consider that most people around you are they believe this thing, so there is an importance to understanding their position, if you want to have conversations about it. So then I really got into like reading the Bible and understanding it from an atheist point of view, because I don't believe your fairy tales, so I can only read it literally, I get obvious parables and metaphors and things like that, but I can't like pick which verses I'm going to say are literal and figurative. And that became a big thing. And my big question at that point for Christians, which is what kind of led to all this, is that you have this book that is the only source for your belief. And this book, some parts of it, you are forced to take literally. Some parts you're forced to take figuratively. Some parts they just throw out and ignore.
Yeah.
And how do you, by what mechanism do you come to those decisions, and why? And that was the question that was never answered. And I know now that there isn't really a good answer to that
It's
question.
unanswerable. Although
Right.
everybody has a reason why they exclude some things, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, of course I don't believe that. I was listening to Michael Jones the other day explain why the Noah's flood didn't happen. I'm like, you're so rational on that. Why are you so irrational on everything else? Like,
Yeah.
it's it's weird.
I'm not the most intelligent of the atheist community by far, but I can be genuine and honest, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the thing is that I could show that someone from Eastern Kentucky who has, you know, lived among these young Earth creationists and brought up that way and was able to overcome it. I can show that you don't have to be a biologist or a professional philosopher or any of those things
Yeah.
to challenge these ideas. And you just got to be willing to speak up and be honest with yourself and others. And you can still come to the same conclusions that it's not reasonable to believe in a God.
Right.
That's
You don't
yeah.
you don't have to learn Greek to figure out it's not real.
You
I
know,
had this was the thing the other night when I was talking to Bar. He said I wouldn't even know Bart Ehrman if I ran into him in the street. Like I never read any Bart Ehrman books, and because we were talking a little bit about different people's different interests, and I'm like, yeah, I study the Bible more now as an atheist than I ever did as a Christian. It's freaking bizarre. Yeah, it's
I
so
keep one
weird.
within reach at all times.
It is so weird. Like, why am
Yeah.
I even doing this? But it's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's fun. It has. Well, if it wasn't for my history, like if I had just been raised an atheist and never had any exposure to that, I probably would think people like me are crazy, and I wouldn't be on YouTube watching these videos. I would have no interest. But because of the trauma, I mean, 38 years of religious trauma, that's going to take some time to get over that. And I'm
Absolutely.
obviously it still affects me in some ways, although I'd like to think I'm pretty free. Like I live a lot more free than most people. So I'll give myself credit for that. But
Well, a lot of people gave Dawkins shit for the cultural Christian comment, you know?
yeah,
But I think that I don't. I mean, I don't really have any opinion on how I feel about it, but I do understand the position he's coming from. Because even though I don't believe those things, I still very much live in a Christian culture around here, right?
yeah,
So I still at times find myself not necessarily engaging in, you know, that kind of thinking or anything, but just, you know, following those rules because it's the society that I live in. So
right.
I kind of get it from that point of view, but that's about where I'll stop agreeing with Dawkins on much.
Yeah, it's a little
of his
different, and
recent
it's a little
takes.
different in England too, where the Church of England is kind of like a part of it's intertwined with the state. I mean, they still have a freaking king, right? Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
it is a little. I mean, he could also say I live in a monarchy, but it's not really. Like, I mean, it's a figurehead. It's just
Yeah.
I don't like. There's still a strong Catholic presence here in Guadalajara, but it does not touch me in any shape or form. Like there's nothing about my life that is like molded, shaped, or like I don't go to any churchy things. I mean, I
They
can't
worship a
remember
lot of saints in the culture you live in, right?
oh man, it's weird the stuff they do. So on this last New Year's Eve, um, I asked my girlfriend if she wanted to go to a friend's restaurant. They were having some New Year's Eve thing, and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna stay too late. I'm like, it's not like the old days. And she's like, no, I'm gonna go with my aunts because they bring out this baby Jesus doll and kiss it at midnight. I'm like, you're kidding, right? And she's like, no, it's a tradition. I go, yeah, no, and she's like, yes. So on New Year's Eve at midnight, they bring out this doll that's representative of baby Jesus, and they pass it around, and all these old ladies kiss it on the forehead. It's bizarre as fuck. She sent me a video, and I'm like, you kidding me? So yeah, no, go to stuff like that.
Yeah.
The the Christmas parties, the posadas that everybody does. So down here they call it a posada. It's a Christmas thing, and they do the king's bread. It's a wreath shape of bread, and they put a baby Jesus in it, and whoever gets the little plastic baby Jesus, if you get it in your piece, you're on the hook to buy tamales like the next week or something. Not that nobody ever actually does it, but yeah,
That's a fun thing.
yeah, it's just it's a silly
It's
fun
a
thing.
spectacle.
My girlfriend's mom got us tickets last year to some Christmas thing with the kind of stuff I hate with all my heart and soul. I hate, but it was fun, and they're happy that I go. And it's they sing some songs, and they're in Spanish, so I don't know what they're saying anyways. And you get something to eat, and you go walk around this festival. Yeah, that kind of stuff's fine. I don't mind that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's nothing that touches my life, like my old life would have been, where everything was centered around church and church events and home groups, and if you were doing stuff with your friends, with Christian friends. Somebody just asked in the chat, I don't speak Spanish. Yes, I've been very derelict in my Spanish learning abilities. I've been here 7 years. I don't speak Spanish, and I get crap from everybody. But because I am bringing a new little life into the world, who obviously will learn Spanish as his or her first language, I have committed to learn Spanish, and I figure I have, I don't know, 9 months to years outside the womb. I don't think I know the baby's going to hear stuff before 9 months, but not necessarily words. But then maybe I have a year of baby talk, so I can get by on that. And then, so I probably have 2 years I need to be reasonably fluent, 3 or 4 years to have the same level as, say, a high school student. And then I'll probably be good at that point. But yeah, so our kid will learn Spanish as his or her first language. And then, of course, they will also learn English. I'm not sure how that works. I'll have to do some research into raising a kid bilingual. At what point you
introduce the second.
English. Although my girlfriend and I obviously speak in English, so our kid will be exposed to English very early.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of, I get a lot of funny back to the question that Maya asked about, you don't speak Spanish. So when I got here, now keep in mind, this is an interesting story. When I decided to leave the States, I wanted to be a novelist. I had a MacBook Pro. I had a backpack of clothes that was 60 pounds because that's what could fit on the plane, and $2,000, 2,000 US. That was all the money I had. And I came here to Guadalajara. I had never been to Guadalajara. I was just recommended as a good city. I didn't know a soul. I don't speak Spanish. And this is not a place where tourists come. It's not a lot of... I didn't run into expats speaking English. Now you do quite a bit. 7 years later, there's quite a few people have moved here. But when I came here, it was very rare to even run into somebody from the States. And I, it was burning my boats, basically. I couldn't turn around and go anywhere else. I had to make it here. And, I was working on some projects, some novel projects, which the novels themselves failed, but it led into a company that did marketing and stuff. So I still made money, and I ended up actually doing really well, and it worked out. But when I got here, I wanted to learn Spanish, and I tried. But then when I was writing novels and rewriting and editing, and my brain with words was so full, and I tried to learn Spanish, and I just couldn't do it. My brain just would not do it. So I started a meetup.com, and I knew about Meetup because when I became an atheist in Orange County, California, I Googled how do atheists make friends, because I had no friends. I didn't know a soul. And meetup.com came up, so I went to some meetups and met atheists, and they were very nice to me, and it was fun, and we did stuff. In fact, we went to hear Dawkins speak at Cal Poly, and Lawrence Krauss, and we did atheist stuff, and it was cool. We went to go listen to Ray Comfort at the Huntington Beach Pier, and I never did his stupid thing, but friends of mine did this stupid, have you ever lied? Have you ever stolen anything?
Answered his silly questions.
Yeah, I know. One of the atheist guys said, asked him one time, "Hey, did you ever wet the bed when you were a kid, Ray?" And he's like, "So you're a bedwetter."
Right.
It's like, it's so stupid. Yeah, the whole thing is dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, but so I made a community with people in those meetup groups. So when I came here to Mexico, I'm like, went on Meetup, and I found there was a business meetup that was these Mexican Americans who had come down here. It was 3 of them, had graduated all from UC schools, University of California schools, and 2 of them were cousins, and all 3 of them were friends, and their families were from Guadalajara, so they'd come down here and started a restaurant, and they were having a talk about their journey here, and it was in English. So I went to it, and I said, "Hey, why don't I start an English meetup, English conversation, here at your restaurant to, help with the business?" They had only been here for a few months. And they're like, "Yeah, no, this is fantastic. Do it." So I started a weekly meetup, which I'm, in fact, the going away, my final one will be in 2 weeks. I told it's at a different location now, and at a different friend's restaurant. And I said, "I'm done. I'm having a baby, and I've been doing this 7 years. I'm done." So I'm handing it off to somebody else. But it was a big deal. I had a lot of fun, and people would always show up, and they would just assume that I speak Spanish. I'm like, "No, I started this was the joke. I started an English meetup so I would never have to learn Spanish," which obviously wasn't the reason, but it did make a funny joke. And no, I've had a few people somewhat be offended, very few people, because they're like, you're here in Mexico, you should learn the language, you should do this, you should. And I'm like, you know what? My brain can't do it because of my work, and everybody that I become friends with, we have stuff in common, like whether it's Rick and Morty or Game of Thrones, they all speak English. So sorry, except for my girlfriend. When I met my girlfriend, she didn't speak a word of English. We dated. In fact, she moved in with me, still dating on Google Translate, if you can believe that or not. That I don't recommend this. I do not recommend moving in with somebody if you don't speak the same language. It was very difficult. We broke up for like a year and a half, and we didn't see each other. Then we got back together. But yeah, it was very difficult. I finally said, "You need to go to English school." So everybody gave me a hard time. "Well, you mean you're not going to learn Spanish? You're going to send her to English school?" And I'm like, "Yes." Why? Because it'll help her in business, which she ended up opening after we broke up, she ended up opening a hostel, which went bankrupt because of COVID. But it was very beneficial for her to speak English, and it ended up vastly increasing her friendships and her business. And so it worked out good. But now it's my turn to learn Spanish, so we will be doing Spanish lessons for me.
Well, I commend you. That was your story of how you ended up there and stuff was a very courageous move, I guess is the word. You had to have some kind of confidence that you were going to be able to do it, and you did it.
I was scared shitless.
I bet.
I was. Imagine going to a foreign country, you've never been to the city, and you only have enough money to go there, then you're just done, and you have nowhere else to go, and you're trying to be a novelist, like the most, like pick a fantasy career. I want to be a YouTuber and make enough money right in the beginning to survive. Yeah.
I can see in the I don't want to say attitude may not be the right word, but in the way that you do atheist content and your activism and your sense of humor with a lot of things too, because I've seen a lot of funny stuff that you've done and stuff, and that you have a good time with it, and you're not fearful of putting yourself out there, and it seems to work pretty good for you. Seems like you're doing pretty good, and you make great content, and you're very valuable to the atheist community for the stuff that you do.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it a lot, and I feel I found a home here and a lot of new friends. So
I'm glad I got to talk to you this time.
The last one you were driving and it didn't work. So
I didn't know I was going to end up in Amish country.
You were literally behind a horse-drawn wagon, trying to stream. That is very, very funny.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of content, you had said something about wanting to, there was some stuff you wanted to ask me about. So I know I have another stream later today, so I don't want to go too long on this one because my brain will literally fall out of my head. But I do have more time. Like I don't have to go right this minute.
Okay.
And I did want to answer if you had any questions or you wanted some commentary about something.
Yeah. So one of the things that you covered recently, it's not your most recent video, but one of your recent ones is J. Warner Wallace, who makes this argument that the circumstantial evidence argument pretty much is what it is. And I think that your approach to that was excellent. First of all, I think you addressed it with the right from the right position, I guess. And I just I was just wondering if you had well, just what your thoughts are on the argument that the this unseen, this circumstantial evidence, I'll use that word, that he tries to make the case with. And also, have you read his book about it, or just his claims that he makes?
Yeah, no, I bought the book Cold Case Detective, and I did read it because I wanted to be I wanted to be up on what his arguments were. Now, granted, there's nothing really in the book that isn't similar to what you can get on listening to YouTube stuff. So a lot of what I responded to was just downloading his appearance on someone's show, going through that, cutting out a few parts of where he makes a statement. But I compared that. Now, the interesting thing about his book is in one, I think it's my most recent video on him, maybe or one or two back, where he did a debrief with Cameron Bertuzzi, and he contradicts stuff he says in his book. So like in my video, I play a clip of him saying something, and then I literally bring the physical book out and read it so that it's like people can see, look, I'm reading his own words and you can hear what he just said. Like these things don't match. So yeah, I wanted to be fair. Like I try to be fair, not taking people out of context. So a lot of times, and this is one of the things, some of my stuff goes really long. It's like somebody will make a quick statement like, okay, so we know historically Jesus rose from the dead and people saw him resurrected, and then a whole bunch of people died because they believed then they really believed. Now they've just made all these claims and it took them 30 seconds. To respond to that adequately takes hours. And so it's not easy sometimes to take, a 5 or 10 minute clip of a Christian apologist could take you 10 or 12 or 20 hours to really go through it. Like if you really want to go to point by point by point of why they're misstating stuff. So with the Wallace stuff, the first one I did, that video is like 3 hours long, and keep in mind, I'm still learning. So legitimately that video could have been probably 2 hours. But it is what it is. The time it took I spent like 3 weeks on that I didn't release any other content. I was just going over that and over and over and over. And part of it is for me was just, I want to learn. Like, it's not like I'm a big channel where I'm, it's not like if you're a big channel and you have 250,000 followers and you're producing a certain level of content, and you're probably outsourcing and you have your freelancers, then every video has to be at that quality because you have a reputation and you have expectation. But when you're starting off and you just have a few hundred, or you're trying to get to that magic 1,000, and I hate to give advice, but if anybody wants to start a channel, this is my advice to you: don't give a fuck, just do it. Like, don't give a fuck.
I agree.
Just do it. And you're going to get some comments from people that just have to comment, oh, that was too noisy, or that you did that. I'm like, okay, you fucking try to make a video like this that gets more than 20 views. It's not easy if you think you can just go out there and do it. Try to be a new channel and make an hour-long video that gets more than 100 views. It's not that easy. You got to spend some time. So, but you don't get that experience without just doing it. So that was the mindset I had, is just fucking do it. Just do it. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. And I've done several other, responses to responses, or responses to Wallace going on with Cameron and saying certain things. And it's been a very good experience for me. It's got me noticed from some big channels, and I've had positive feedback from, on the first video I got, like Prophet of Zod, he actually is the one that first brought up these things about Wallace, and I'd watch his videos, and then that launched me into watching more Wallace stuff.
Yeah,
and so that got
it
me more
inspires
interested.
you to go down that rabbit hole, right?
Exactly, it totally did. And
Aaron Raw has done that to me a number of times.
yeah, when you see somebody, and this is a legitimate thing, to not, don't plagiarize or copy somebody directly, but you can copy their style or follow the same trail. Like, we're never going to have enough videos on responding to slavery arguments or whatever, or women's rights, or why the flood's not real, or why the earth's not flat, because people hear different personalities, and if you put your own passion and heart into it and you work on it, it'll speak to somebody. So Zod stuff sort of launched me into it, and then it got me excited. And that first video, there was a few big channels that noticed me, and that was that positive feedback was nice, and it spurred me on to want to do more and to make more.
So I kind of directed that question purposely. So when you talk about the things J. Warner Wallace, I mean, it's obvious that you've spent some time looking at his claims and know what you're talking about. I mean, which I think is, for me, that's part of the allure of covering other things on YouTube, because I like to go and research and look, is that true? Is what they're saying? Because I find, especially with young Earth creationists, and I know that's not really the claim that Wallace is making there, but I know with young Earth creationists a lot, if they give you a source or refer to some scientific thing or whatever, every time I've went and looked, it's either misrepresented or non-existent or just a lie,
they quote mine things. They take it out of context.
Yeah.
They misrepresent.
Yeah.
They don't get the whole picture.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Wallace does exactly the same thing. If he's not outright lying, he's saying things where he's leaving out parts.
Yeah. And I do agree with you. Like, being yourself is an important thing. I tried to, because when I first started doing this, like, I made a lot of things just kind of making fun of televangelists and pointing out some of the more awful takes they have and stupid things that they've done and stuff like that, and showing contradictions and things like that. And I had at first a single video that just all of a sudden blew up and got like 18,000 views. And I didn't really get recognized by any huge channels or things, but a lot of the atheist community about in the same place I am, like the Embers and Mark Reeds and things like that, it opened doors for me to have conversations with those people. And they had seen some of my content and everything. And so one of the things I tried to do at one time, though, was just make responses to whatever, claims in Christian videos. And I found that it came off very fake. Like, you could tell that I was forcing a response to those things. Now, I still do responses to some videos, but I don't make it like it's something I care about and want to do now. Like, misrepresentation of science and things is a big thing to me. That when you just lie about science. So those are the things that I can get into. And Titan said in the chat, talk to us. Yeah, that's the thing. I was just responding to silly claims that have been responded to over and over, rather than having that discussion, even if it's left open-ended, because I can say, hey, what do you guys think? Tell me in the comments and stuff. And that's not just to increase engagement on my videos, which does help, but it introduces that, let's talk about this subject. And then whenever I do live streams and member streams and those things, we can then talk about those things. And so it took me a while to figure out how to be myself on camera, and not just, on a fishing expedition, essentially.
Right.
And,
yeah. To feel natural talking to yourself is a little bit of a strange thing when you first do it. Like when you're doing it, not, not obviously when you're doing a stream, you can talk to the person you're talking to, but when you're doing like a response video, then you're editing it and you're talking to your camera in your room by yourself, it can be a little bit awkward to make it come across natural.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So are you still, do you have goals or dreams or ideas? So one of the people that I'm sort of a fan of is Trevor, who does the video essays. He releases one about every 2 weeks, and that's a full-time job for him. He's doing commercials, and he has endorsement deals, and he has I think he has a couple 100,000 subs, and his videos will get 100,000 to 1 million views, and he does like a topical thing. I really enjoy his format and his style, and him and I actually had a conversation. We had a Zoom chat. I reached out to him, and he was very gracious to give me some time and kind of guide me on some things. So I want to do more like that, but I really love the interviews too. I love stuff like this, where you're kind of have an open-ended chat. You're getting people in the chat maybe ask questions or comments.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a different mindset and a different thing. Whereas if you're researching, like when I was researching J. Warner Wallace, obviously that's different because it involves a lot of like reading articles and stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I kind of cut you off after I wanted to ask you a question. Are you working on that stuff too? Do you have hopes, dreams, desires, and?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, doing this, I want to be successful. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, and, I started finding things that I wanted to introduce into my YouTube channel. Like I've started a call-in show now. We just had our first one last week with Grayson as the guest, and we had some technical problems and not many callers or whatever. But those things cost money, and I've put a lot of money into being able to do that. Call-in studio isn't cheap when you get down to it, honestly. And there's other things I've had to buy to support that and everything else. So one of the things I've always been kind of weird about is I'll mention that my channel has memberships and super chats and stuff like that, but I don't really like pushing those things a lot. I just don't. I don't know. Like to me, it feels like e-bagging. But now that I've started doing this call-in stuff and I'm actually putting money back into it, I mean, my goal would be to be able to do more of this. Like, I don't want to be like the line necessarily or anything like that, but I would be able to like have important conversations that are sometimes tough to talk about and things, and engage with atheists and theists. And my goal as far as YouTube is, of course, to build a community and become as successful at doing this as I can. But and it's almost kind of like a challenge to myself because I think I suck at this, but it's to learn it and to be better at it. Like I'm always striving to do better, and so those kind of things push me to want to be successful in those aspects and stuff. But I have a life and other things I have to do. I still have to pay bills and take care of my family and all those things. So I work aside from this also, a couple different things actually. But I would love to be able to be a self-sustaining thing that I could do more often, and those things help me build more reach to talk to more people. It's not necessarily about, I'm not trying to get rich off YouTube or anything, but I would like to be able to focus more time on doing that research and those things. And to further that goal, like I recently, Jess is now like works on all of my art stuff and plays producer during the call-in show and all that, and has has a stake in my channel now, because I don't care to outsource things to other people in order to get there, to be able to reach more people, you know. So it's I mean, my goals are really just to build a community and have conversations and address important issues that have affected my life and many others, you know. And in the end, I mean, I guess I just refer to secular humanism. I just want to make the world a better place and try to educate people to do less harm to others, you know. That would be like, I mean, I know that's kind of scattered and not really precise.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think a lot of us in this space wanted to be or were in some sort of ministry. I mean, I don't know if that's your background, but mine certainly was in lay leadership and wanting to be. I had wanted to go to Bible college. So this is like a natural extension of that, in the sense that I like people and I like to be helpful. I love, if I know something, I don't want to say I like to be a teacher because I might sound arrogant, but if I read or understand something and somebody else doesn't, I get pleasure out of explaining what I know. So I like that. So I think some of that is with like the response videos, that I try not to be, like I know and you don't know. Even if I'm talking to a Christian who I think is completely off the charts of silliness, I want to say, look, here's your argument and here's the arguments against that. And let's talk about what's more rational, you know, and yeah, for sure. Maybe, not now because we're in the middle of a stream, but off camera or off live, you could tell me a little bit more about the talking stuff, the call-in stuff. Cause that's another thing that super interests me. And I like the idea of trying different things. So I did I try to dabble in different times of, I started making shorts the other day. I'm like, man, I need to exploit that part of YouTube.
I'm on that road right now. I'm trying to find a volunteer to clip my videos or give me timestamps of things I need to make shorts out of.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Because I can't stand to watch my own content. I think
it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's just time consuming. All this stuff is, you almost need a staff, even when you're just a little channel just barely to grow. Like, I need a staff.
And the call-in thing. So you and I both have this in common, that we're trying to have conversations with believers and things, not necessarily to argue with them, but to actually have a productive conversation and to better understand their point. Because I'm willing to listen to whatever it is that you may believe or not believe or whatever, I'm interested in hearing that. If you're not going to just make arguments that you heard somewhere else, that doesn't catch my attention much. But the call-in thing, the reason behind that has been that it's hard to get a lot of people to come on the channel as like, I'm going to send you a StreamYard link, come on and talk about it. But I thought maybe they may be less apprehensive if they just got to call a phone number and we can talk about whatever, and they don't have to be identified, and there's nothing, their channel info is not up there and all that stuff. Let me, Barnaby Wild, a $5 super chat. Let's see. Hey, everybody. Michael Beverly is currently top 3 of my YouTube creators. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you for all you do, Barnaby.
Thanks for that nice comment. I want to know who those other 2 guys are, because I'm going to put a target on there.
Yeah, got work to do.
Yeah. What do I got to do to be number 1?
Yeah. So yeah, that was really my idea behind the call-in thing. It was just to be able to expand and have more people to talk to. But I'm also not going to act like I'm not aware that is a popular format on YouTube.
Of course. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with emulating what works, because that means there's a market for it. There's a, what's interesting about me is what sparked me. I had done some videos like a year and a half ago. I can't remember now, probably a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years. It was more cathartic and therapy about my old church stuff. And then I was watching, I followed a new channel, or reasonably new, last maybe last October is Brandon a Mind Shift. And at the time, I mean, he maybe had 4,000 or 5,000 subs, but his content was really good. He was spot on. He was regular. And I started chatting with him in the chat. And he was the first person I ever signed up and did Patreon for. And I sent him a message. I said, "You're the first person I've ever actually, you got me to say, yes, I'll send you some money every month." Cause I really, and I told him I had been thinking about doing a channel, and he said, "Jump in here. Cause there's plenty of room for more atheist skeptic type creators. And there's plenty of people that need to hear different types of voices. Like there's, so that sort of motivated me to say, okay, I'm going to do it." So I credit Brandon's encouragement as being a very, very crucial in me making the step to take it seriously. Cause anybody can say, "Oh, I'm going to make a channel," and then they make one video, and maybe a month goes by, they make another video, and then 6 months later they quit. Or
yeah, it's a job.
It's a lot to be consistent and build a channel. It is work. I mean, it is a job. Now I enjoy it very much, but make no mistake, it is when I'm doing it's a lot. This is great, me talking to you, because this is your channel. I don't have no anxiety. I don't give a shit about what I say. I just myself, and you can lead the conversation totally free. Like, I enjoy this. If it's the other way around, I start getting sick, nervous about an hour before, and then it takes me 2 hours after a stream to detox of my chemical fucking breakdown. And it is like, it may seem, I hope I seem somewhat natural and nice. I mean, when I host, people seem to be comfortable and enjoy talking to me. It seems like, I mean, I've had a lot of good interactions, even with like evangelicals, but it's nerve wracking because I feel responsible. Oh, you want to know what it's, if you want to know what it feels like to be the most like an awkward 7-year-old at a new school wearing the wrong clothes and everybody's making fun of you. This was when Jay started going off on Behe. I felt, oh my God, like, what have I done? And Jay didn't do anything wrong, but he was very I felt like
it's hard to watch somebody getting beat to death.
Here's the perfect analogy. I felt like I was a little kid watching mommy and daddy scream at each other, and you don't know what's going to happen. That's what I felt like. Yeah. And boy, I had a bit of anxiety, but I just kept telling myself, they're both grown adults, and they can, either one can hit if Michael Behe wanted to hit the exit button, nobody was forcing him to be in there. And right. I had told Jay, I said, I'm not going to restrain, because he asked me, what can I do, or what can I say, or what can I present? Like, dude, make a fucking slide and say whatever you want. I did ask him, I said, try not to be like openly, like, don't call the guy a stupid, don't use ad hominem attacks. Like, but you can say whatever you want. Like, the argument is fair. But I wasn't prepared for it to be as strong as it was. And I realize now my mistake is because I was giving Behe too much credit. So, right. I was giving him too much credit of having a good argument, and it's just nothing. And then I realized, okay, that was my mistake. So that was a good lesson for me, but it was nerve wracking because, there was a lot of emotion involved in that. And I've had some conversations with Christians where in the chat they're like, "Hey, calm down because you invited this person. Like, don't be so aggressive." And I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I'll even put those chats up on the screen, and I'll tell the guy if I'm being too, I'm being too aggressive or going over the top. Let me know. I don't mind somebody saying, 'Hey, I'm uncomfortable,' or 'calm down,' or 'let's change the subject.' That's fine." But
yeah, no, I'm kind of like that too. I don't care to. I don't care to address whatever it is you want to say to me. I may not have an answer, or I may not want to answer, depending on what you ask. But I don't care. I don't care to address whether you're giving positive comments or negative ones, or arguing something silly. Even I don't care to stop and explain it to the best of my ability. But I also preface everything with, I'm just a dude from Kentucky. I don't know anything. I'm just I try to focus more on the being genuine and honest with people, and I think
Yeah.
that better represents most people who have questions about these kind of things, and that's also like here's something to explain it, because while I enjoy the YouTube thing and do all that, I also anonymously am doing this for RFR too. So and I don't mention my YouTube or you're not allowed to do any of that anyway. But I don't. It's because I like having the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's it has. I've gotten myself in a couple positions doing this, especially with live streams and just pinning open panels to let whoever come on and stuff. I've
Yeah.
gotten myself in a couple sticky positions where I've had to make an apology video for one thing, and which was a bad call on my part, but it wasn't a huge thing. But I still felt like because I do feel responsible, like you were talking about. I have a certain responsibility not to not to let others cause harm on my channel, and so it's gotten me in a couple fixes, and we've had some drama around here, and we're down to one host now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what that's not what I'm saying. It's just like things come up, and sometimes it's difficult, and it's definitely been a lot of work, and had to spend a lot of time thinking and reflecting on myself of what kind of channel I want to portray, what kind of person do I want people to see me as, which is hard for me because I don't really like I don't like myself much, and I don't care to admit that. I've got a lot of things in my past that I don't like, and a lot of things that I just, because of the life I've lived, I may not have the best impressions about and things, and I also like I mean, I've got somewhat of an education, and I've strived really hard to learn the things that concern the subjects I talk about. Like, I feel like I can have a very good conversation about evolution. I feel like I can. I'm not really good with abiogenesis and stuff, but like, there's certain topics that I feel like I've spent a lot of time learning in order to do that, because I have a responsibility to, if I'm going to come on here and challenge someone's belief system and things, I should be informed,
Yeah.
and so I've read the Bible a lot and tried to learn as much as I can to be able to engage in conversations. And even if none of that really comes into it, like, I don't give a shit about arguing about what the Bible says. I think the Bible is, I will do it, and we can do that. But like, I think that personally, the Bible is just, it's a book. I mean, it's a fictional book, and so it's like the reality TV of books. A
lot of drama and soap opera.
Yeah, and so the responsibility thing, though, I've had to struggle a couple times with that because of just learning, just inexperience, and I'm not the smartest guy,
Well, it's a two-sided coin, because one, we want to be responsible, we want to be kind, we want to be empathetic. We also want to be able to have real conversations. So there's a balance, because you can't police everything everybody says or does, or it'll just shut down the conversation. And then you also need to be cognizant of not being a place where you're allowing people to spew hatred and bigotry and bullshit. But I struggle with this, with reaching out, because when I reach out to Christians and I'm going to talk to an apologist, like, so for instance, I had a guy on with a small channel, and his podcast was like the manly Christian, blah blah blah. And like, one of the very first things I asked him about was that, like, what the fuck are you saying? There's many people including myself in my community that find that very offensive. Like, and he explained it, and whether you accepted his explanation or not, we were able to talk about it in a fair way where I think at least he heard me. I mean, his answer was good. I don't know if it was, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he wasn't bullshitting me about why he had that posture. But you know what I'm talking about? It's the real Christian men. If you're a real Christian man, you do X, Y, Z. Like, what the fuck's that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is a real man or a real woman? It's like, fuck you. Like, you don't get to decide that. And you don't, and when you posture that way, it's just, you're starting off offensively. And I called them on that, but not like, I didn't want to do it in a mean way. Because also people won't hear you if you're just attacking. It's like, okay, here's how I feel about what you said or did or your position. Can you at least recognize where I'm coming from? You don't have to agree with me, but if you're not listening, well, there's no point in us talking if you're not listening.
Yeah, if you're just waiting on your turn to make the next point, then we're not going to get anywhere. And,
then it's pointless. At least you have to be able to understand. And I think if you do that well, then even if it doesn't affect that person, it will likely affect somebody else listening. And
sure. And that's really what's important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect, if I've done a couple debates and things, and I don't care to debate if that's what people want to do with me, I kind of like the debates because I feel like people underestimate me a little bit because I do have a little bit of information about these things, and so I enjoy it for that reason. But I don't go into one of those conversations or debates with the idea that I'm going to change that person's mind or make them give up a belief or anything like that. Right. What I go into it for is thinking that maybe somebody in the audience or somebody that watches later can relate to the things that we talked about and either learn something or inspire them to do something. Right. And that's the big thing.
And that's what helped you and I, right? That's when you and I were deconstructing, and probably almost everybody in the chat and that came out of a religion, whether it was Christianity or some other religion. We needed to hear people talk about it or read a book about it. And that helped me tremendously, reading a few books and hearing other people's experiences. So that's definitely one of the things that I hope that people listen to me can somebody in that position where they're questioning and they're not sure about stuff. And if they connect with me, like if my story is similar to their story, it would be helpful to them.
I think so. That's the thing too, is I think apologists think that whenever I say, hey, you want to come on and talk to me, that it's automatically we're going to be at odds with each other. And that's not ever my plan. Like, my idea isn't to come on and have a fight. It's that I find the reasons that you believe these things fascinating. Now, the fact that I won't let you just assert things that aren't true and that stuff is just a product of that. That's not my goal. It's to have the conversation. And sometimes I'll even let things go just so we can get deeper into the conversation purposely,
right. Sure.
And I think there's again, I think there's kind of not an art, but a method to being able to have good conversations with theists. And I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, well,
I'll get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I got super lucky when I only had like 600 subs, and Mike Lacona wrote me back and said, "Hey, my team has a rule. You got to have 1,000 subs before we can even talk to you, just because I'm so busy. I'm so inundated with requests."
Yeah.
And also I looked at your channel and you seem like you're very mean. And so, but yeah, anyway, I wrote it back. We exchanged a few emails, and he emailed me one day and he said, "Hey, I'm doing these shows and I have all my equipment set up and I have this space that's free. And I thought of you. Can we do it during that time?" And I'm like, of course I'll move heaven and earth. Like,
Yeah.
and that, and getting and having that conversation with Mike Lacona just instantly gave me credibility, and it opened up the door to approach other apologists and other Christians. And that has allowed me, because now when I email somebody, I have these links. I say, if you want to see my style and understand what I'm looking for in a live stream with you or interview, you can just look at these that I've done with, here's 3 or 4 Christian apologists or authors that I've talked to. And for the most part, those have all gone well. Like,
Yeah.
I did one with Eric Manning. Now, Eric Manning and I had a whole bunch of back and forth chats. In fact, he blocked me at one point, and I was on a different channel's live stream, and I'm like, I realized, like, anyways, I complained about it, and he unblocked me. And then I said, instead of blocking me, why don't you talk to me? And he goes, well, instead of having all these comments, why don't you like make some videos? And I'm like, well, I am making videos, but come talk to me. Eventually he came and talked to me, and we had a good chat. Like, it was friendly, and we both said our piece, and I enjoyed that. Now, I think his position is, like, even in the Christian world, that position is kind of in the fringe. So he's going to get more flack from other Christians than from me. Like, I just think his beliefs are silly, but other Christians get offended by that position, as well as he gets offended by Christians like Mike Lacona. So it's to me, that's the funny. It's like, you guys actually, you want to see hatred, just look at Christians fighting with each other. It's like not coming from the atheists so much. So, and then I've had some scholars, and as long as I, read a paper, look at their, maybe read a book or read a paper and have a knowledge about what their specialty or their thing is, those interviews have gone pretty well. I think. I mean, I've enjoyed them. They seem to get good feedback. Now, what's interesting to me, though, is those streams don't get nearly the views that a response does. So there's a balance there too. Like, if I just wanted to grow my channel and that was all I was worried about, I wouldn't do any. I would have turned you down. I would never reach out and do any live streams. I would just work on Jay Warner Wallace and Mike Winger videos.
Yeah, right. Well,
for whatever reason.
I could have just continued to do televangelist videos, because I think I figured out, somewhat of a formula that people would watch. And I could have just done that. If it was about numbers,
no, it's not. Yeah, it's not as fun, and also it's more well-rounded, and also, like we talked about earlier, it's community building and fun, and so I'm glad I didn't go that path. But I do want to balance it too, because to have a, like, if I'm having a talk with a scholar on an important subject, it would be nicer to have 1,000 people watching than 20, obviously. Like, let's be honest, we'd rather have more people watching us than less. So there's a balance there of, okay, you got to put in the time and do some of these long form or responses, and maybe make some shorts and get out there in the community, get your name out there, and treat it like a business, because you want it to be effective, and you want to for all the obvious reasons.
Good job, mods. No, I agree. It's you really discover, I mean, while you're trying to have productive conversations with people, you really discover other things about yourself and how you want to proceed a lot. And one of the big things for my show is we started out just talking to, having panels and whoever would come on and those things. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to message Aaron Ra and just ask him to come on. And I hadn't even got to 1,000 subscribers yet. But he accepted, I just sent the message and he said yes. And the same with Matt Dillahunty. I just sent a message and he accepted. And those guys brought some attention to my channel that I wasn't getting otherwise. Matt obviously had shared that he was going to be here, because that's by far my largest live stream. It has like 6,000 views or something. And so that brought some attention and stuff. And it also by having conversations with these people that we kind of put on a pedestal. I don't really view people that way, but like they are kind of big heads in the game of the
Sure.
atheist community, right? And so getting to have conversations and have normal conversations with those people was really I think eye-opening for me and other people. And Aaron Ra is somebody who I've read his book. I've watched everything he's put out. I've followed him for years, since the beginning, and of my atheism, I guess. And so it was really a big thing. I was like fanboy having him on, and
Nice.
I had to. But whenever we got to talking, one of the cool things with Aaron and why I refer to him so often is that we kind of have a similar experience. We were raised in this young Earth creationist point of view, and we have a lot of the same steps that we followed coming out of that, and being skeptical of that position. And so I of course can I can connect with that. And
Sure.
So when he came on, we just had a really awesome natural conversation. I had planned on talking about phylogeny and all these other things, and I threw that out the window at the last minute and was like, let's just talk. Like you and I have a lot in common. Let's talk about it. And
did he motivate you? Did he motivate you to start raising snakes?
I actually, that's Matt. I watched their videos where they take care of their snakes and stuff. And
doesn't it? Oh, Aaron has Aaron has dogs on his show, and I know there's
snakes too.
So they both have snakes.
Yeah.
Is that an atheist thing or what?
I don't know, but I learned a lot because I look up to those people. I learned a lot and got interested in it. And I actually want to get a hognose snake. I think they're cool as shit, and I think they just look cool.
So that was Matt who came on with you and said, I just got done cleaning up from the rats.
Yeah, he brought some of his snakes on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like snakes a lot, but I don't know. Oh, Robin says she has snakes.
I've always been scared of them my whole life. I want one now.
We have dogs and cats, and I have an aquarium. That's enough. Although I was at the market last week, and somebody stuck a little caiman in my hand, and it was super cool. I'm like, I almost wanted to buy a little caiman. It was about this long. Oh my gosh! I'm like, where's this from? It was from a Mexican state. One of the neighboring states has alligators. So this was from the jungle somewhere south of me, and I don't know. I think they can get it like a meter long, and I don't think they're super dangerous, but I guess they probably could eat a chihuahua, and we have chihuahuas. So
I was kind of nervous that week. Robin says, "Yes, I definitely was."
I could see.
I had both those guys on in the same week because that was like the 1-year anniversary of me starting to make content.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it was a big thing, and I was kind of nervous. I was more nervous talking to Matt than Aaron, just because I knew that I was outclassed mentally with both of them, but with Matt, as far as like, I know that if I said something that was irrational or something, he was going to catch it immediately. And so I had to kind of think about what I wanted to say with Matt more. But again, I think there's an argument that not a lot of atheists cover, and that's the argument about deception and why humans have deception, and if we give it's like a precept against precepts. If we have deception, how do you know that you're not being deceived? Is essentially it. And Brandon over at Mindshift does an excellent video covering that subject. And I feel like not a lot of people cover that. So I wanted to ask Matt what his thoughts were on it, because it's something I've never heard him speak on. And, I did a poor job explaining it, but we got into it a little bit, and he seemed interested. So that was a score for me. I felt like,
nice. Well, that's
a productive conversation.
Thus the snakes. That's where the deception came from. The serpent.
Yeah, right. Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You can tell those snakes are sneaky. That's the whole point
Well,
of being a snake.
deception is one of those things I combine with the other problems that don't stand well on their own, like the problem of evil. Um, divine hiddenness, I think, is an excellent argument, but when you combine it with the deception thing, it works really well, because if we talk about the snake deceiving them in the garden, then why did God allow deception to even be part of the world if God could create the world in any way that He wanted?
Right.
Uh, it says that then animals have free will also, which, Christians don't believe that mostly.
Right.
So why was deception introduced? And then how do you know that it's not just the devil deceiving you? If the devil, sorry, Kentucky accent, if the devil is able to masquerade as an angel of light and trick even the elect, so then how do you know you're not being deceived?
Well, you could be the fake Christian, right? You could be the fake Christian right now, just like
yeah,
some of these guys think that you and I were fake, like, oh, you were never a real Christian. Well, yeah, okay, but then nobody's a real Christian, or nobody can know they're one. It
yeah.
dovetails very nicely into that the
That's the
deception.
thing. Yeah, that's a thing I've been like looking into and been interested in a lot lately, because I feel like there's something there. There may not be. I'm again not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I feel like there's something there that because it leaves a presupper in a position that the logic that they've used to make that presupposition, that there's no answer to that question. They can't get around it. So it's a presup buster essentially, when done correctly, which I don't usually do.
Well,
But
part of the problem is they don't let you. Like, I always think to myself, oh, if I can just take somebody through these steps, then it'll be obvious. And they derail those conversations. I get surprised sometimes with what people say. They will say something, I'm like, nah, I never would have thought of that excuse or that dodge or that. Are you serious? And then, I mean, they just say, that's what I think. Well, okay. I mean, I can't change what you think, obviously.
yeah,
I do get surprised with that kind of stuff.
yeah, they try to derail your thought process sometimes. And one of the other things too that I talk about a lot is it's sometimes nerve-wracking when you have a theist on that you're not familiar with, because you never know what they're going to say. You never know at what point the conversation is going to jump off the tracks and head to crazy town. Or if it's going to at all. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not saying that's the case every time, but I talk to a lot of creationists, and you'll get some of them think God guides evolution and things like that, and then then some of them are think the Bible is completely literal and all that. So it's you never know at what point it's going to happen, and sometimes that's iffy, because there is a non-zero number of apologists out there that want to come on and start that conversation and then dive right into things to do with sex and gender and stuff like that, and that pisses me off. Or racism. We had a case of that the other night that I went off on, but so it's nerve-wracking sometimes with the theists, I feel like, but you gotta at least try to. I feel like if you seriously care about it, you got to try to have the conversation. Now,
I think so.
If it's obvious that some people are just going to use it as a platform, or like with Kent Hovind, there's no point in me talking to Kent Hovind. I can watch his seminar; it's the exact same script. So there's not really any benefit to things like that. I would love to have a discussion with Kent Hovind about the Bible, actually, though, and about his beliefs, rather than him challenging evolution terribly.
Well, I think there's a fear in that community to come outside their scripted practice routine, because they don't want to be caught on tape saying the wrong thing. Whereas the opposite's true. Like, you or I will be like, okay, dogmatic position. that they don't like to be in that position,
Yeah.
or go off the cuff where, you know,
Right. They want to keep it separate from their personal beliefs, and it's hard to have a conversation like that. That's debate tactics. If you want to debate, that's what you do. If you want to have an honest conversation with someone, we have to set down your arguments and talk about how you actually feel about it. And that's something a lot of them don't want to get into. And I find that scares them off more than anything. When you say, okay, evolution's fake. Now explain to me why you believe in a God.
Or even just, you know, how do you explain how your different views of Christianity line up with your friends' different views when you guys both read the same Bible, you both say you believe the same God, you both say you have the same Holy Spirit, you both say you're committed to truth, and yet you're telling me two completely opposite things. So my proposition here is, okay, guys, let's say I believe you. There's a God and I want to be a Christian because Jesus, you've convinced me Jesus is real. Should I go to your church and believe this, or should I go to your church and believe that? Well, then you're telling me two different things that are completely opposite. They can't both be true. Where explain to me the methodology you use to go to that church and not that church. And when you can do that, you'll have some credibility. But until you can do that, you're basically proving my point that you're full of shit. Because
right, yeah, and that's kind of similar to what I go to with you know, which parts of this do you take literal and which parts do you take figurative, and what mechanism do you use to get there and why. And that applies to denominations too. How, you know, how do you decide that this is right and that's wrong, and why and how and who? like those are the things that I find fascinating and really want to hear about. Like, I don't it's not, I'm not there to convince them, and I don't expect them to convince me, but I'm more than willing to listen to their story and things, right? It's not that, and because of the way that the atheist community has been built and portrayed, it seems like it's an adversarial platform, because it's most of what people see initially are debates, arguments, and the drama. And there has to be more to it than that if we expect to like normalize the atheist community.
Yeah, well, I had this conversation with Lindsay Medenwalt, because she wrote a book called Bridge Building Apologetics. So I reached out to her and she came on the show. And so her thing is like, let's, you know, we got to be able to talk to atheists. We got to be able to bridge build as Christians. So that was a good interview. I mean, I challenged her on a few things in the book that I didn't like, that seemed like, you know, I asked her kind of like, it seems like you got an alternative motive here. And she said, no, I addressed that. Like, you can't missionary date or missionary friendship, but it's still at the core of it, right? It's still at the core of you have an agenda. But the conversation not only went well, I did a stream with her husband. So it was kind of cool. She's like, she had said something about him. I'm like, hey, I want to talk to him. And she's like, yeah, sure. I'll give you his email and whatever. And he came and streamed with me as well. I have another one scheduled with another Christian apologist, who wrote a book that released a few weeks ago, or maybe last month, about about conversations not happening, about the political and the religious stuff in America and the division and how people can't have conversations. And they're looking at it from a Christian perspective and like, hey, we got to be able to talk to people. Now, their motivation partly is driven by, if we can't talk to people, we can't proselytize. But there is a good faith thing in there too. They're also seeing the same thing that a non-Christian would see, is if we can't even talk civilly and have a meeting of the minds, it's hard to It's hard to get
agree on the terms of reality. It's hard. Hard to get much further.
Well, sure, but it also comes down to, you know, when you're talking into politics, like you and I can sit here and say, oh, we see, you know, XYZ policy is unfair, or it's racist, or it's, you know, it's bigoted, or it's evil, blah. But if we're trying to have a conversation with a Christian and talk this and have a meeting in the minds and help the audience and help third parties that may be on the fence, we can't just come out and say, dude, you're a fucking bigot, racist piece of shit, right? You're voting for Trump. I fucking want to, you know, like, you know, you're the worst fucking piece of shit on my shoe. Like, if it's fine to think that. Through it. Well, right, but if you, if you come out at somebody that you can't have a conversation, so you can feel that, and I would never tell anybody feel what you want. I don't care what if you.
Yeah.
I want people to be free to feel what they want, but if you're going to have a productive conversation, you can't show up at the beginning of the conversation and start
dismiss them immediately.
Yeah, you just can't be offensive, and nobody's going to listen to you. And then what good's that? To me, that's counterproductive. Now, that doesn't mean you let things slide with somebody as being blatantly, rude, whatever. Yeah, you guys, we all agree on that.
Misinformation, right?
Yeah, but sometimes there's gray areas where it's like, how do you weave through that? And I think, I think the first thing is we have to agree that trying is worth it. Like, I've talked to some atheists who say, no, it's not even worth the conversation. I'm like, okay, I get that. That's fine. I mean, I still feel there can be productive conversations. I'm still working at them, but I'm willing to be corrected on any given particular case.
Yeah. It's not as easy as it looks to find those conversations, though, that will take that path, and that there's a lot of bad actors, dishonest people on both sides for that matter. There's, and sometimes it's hard to find the conversation that you can really dig into. Like you and I today, even though this isn't like challenging any kind of theology, like you and I have had an amazing conversation today, and a lot of valuable stuff, and a really, I've enjoyed every minute of it. So it's hard to find, when people will open up and have that conversation that's not just the front of, hey, this is the Kentucky Atheist, creationism is bullshit, like
right.
Like it's sometimes hard to get there.
Sure.
I always try to walk through whatever the claim is. Like, so your claim is this, and you think this is the case because of X, Y, and Z, and but how do you reconcile that with this scientific consensus or whatever? And when I'm giving you these two things, and I'm giving you a natural explanation that is possible, why do you still defer to the supernatural explanation that we don't observe? And so that's kind of the direction I usually try to go with a lot of that. Not because it's like a gotcha question, but because it forces them to dig a little deeper into the whys instead of the whats, if that makes sense, I guess.
No, it does. It totally does. And I think it's, we all of us that are willing to do that and want to do it and find motivation and enjoy doing it have a different take and would connect with different types of people. Like, I might be able to have a totally productive, good conversation with a certain Christian that would hate you and not want to talk to you, and vice versa. Somebody may connect with you and I may totally offend them because I say some fucked up shit. So it's just the way, that's the way it is. So I think recognizing that, and
take all those perspectives.
And recognizing the value. I mean, this would be the thing I would say to you, brother. You have value. You're a good person and you're doing a good work. So, try to look in the mirror and say, hey, motherfucker, you're doing good. Like this, you're a good guy. You're doing good stuff. And let the other shit fall off the back, because there's always bullshit.
Yeah. I don't ever get personally invested, especially in argument. Like, and some people do. They take serious offense to, like, they just lash out whenever you put them in a corner about a bad idea. Like, but for me, it's like, you can, like, I've gotten 20 messages while we've done this about Jim Bob has made some video about whatever we said earlier or something. And it's like, I don't care.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck?
I thank everybody for telling me and stuff, but it's like, I don't take that personally. If Jim Bob got on there, and I don't know what he said, but let's assume the worst. He got on there and pointed out how stupid I am and that I was wrong about something or whatever. Like, that doesn't make his position any better, and I don't take it personally. So he had zero effect on moving the needle in either direction. And
Yeah, well, whatever. There's no bad publicity in this business.
exactly.
Come on.
You put my face on all you want, Jim Bob.
Yeah, geez.
I'll gladly talk to your viewers.
Yeah, bring them over. Maybe some will show up.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. I don't know. I mean, I try to avoid high school stuff because I fucking hated that shit. I just don't want to go back to the drama and go back to the gossip and blah blah blah. Anyways, somebody's reminded me I have another stream tonight. So if you don't mind, can we wind this down so I can take myself a little break, a mind break before I ramp back up for the next one?
I've got another stream too. So
we're both working hard on Sunday. Jesus.
Yeah.
Don't we know it's the Sabbath?
Yeah, right. No, hey, I've missed one show because my electric was out in the last year doing this Sunday show at 2 p.m. Now I've changed the time once or twice to accommodate certain guests, but I've been really consistent about doing this show on Sundays at this time, even though it's not the greatest time slot. It's I like it, and it brings a decent audience for a live stream, and I get to interact with all my friends in the chat and all that stuff, so it's awesome. But so in order to wind down, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you got coming up and where you're going to be and all those things? I know you're going to be on Wavelength tonight.
Yeah, I got that tonight. I have the evolutionary plant biologist on Tuesday evening. I have, I should have this memorized, but I don't. Let me say I have some good stuff coming, believe it or not. I have, did you guys know James Fordor? He's an Aussie guy. He does fine tuning arguments. I really like his stuff, although it's way over my head. So I'm going to ask him if he can dumb it down for me. That's in August 8th. August 7th, I'm doing one with a former Baptist turned Catholic. And I'm super curious to ask him about the process of deconstruction from Baptist to Catholicism. Because it does make sense if you're not going to be evangelical, but you still want to be a Christian, that you're going to be Eastern Orthodox, I guess, or Catholic. So I want to ask him about that. The 31st. So actually the day after. So the 30th is the plant evolution guy. And the 31st is the Bible and modern genre theory with Andrew Judd, who's an Aussie as well. Now he's actually I think he's ordained. He's an Anglican priest, but he's a professor. He teaches at a Bible university. So a Christian. His book, I'm about halfway through his book. He believes the Bible's the word of God and so forth. But the reason that I was interested about it is I saw a short video, Zondervan Academic Books, because that's the press that published his book. It's an academic press and an academic book on genre. So we're not talking about religion and believer. He knows I'm an atheist. Of course I don't deceive anybody about that. And when I emailed him, I said, hey, I'm super interested in this. I had just done this book interview with Mike Lacona about the New Testament using genre and literary conventions. So I sent him a link to that, and I said, I'm an atheist, but here's kind of my style, and I'd be super interested in asking you about genre, why genre is important. Now, his viewpoint is genre is important, and that's how we can interpret things in the Bible as if it's from God. My thing is, once we start interpreting the Bible as from the genre that certain things are written, it can get us away from dangerous or hurtful or mean ideologies. And so that's fine. You want to be a Christian, but you're not going to be a bigot. I'm 100% on board with that.
Please do
100%. So my chat with him won't be like any kind of debate. It's just going to be, I'm super fascinated and I'm really enjoying his book, even though it's written from a Christian perspective. So those are a few things I have coming up. I reached out to a guy, and I think we picked a date, although I don't know the date, so I can't say. But it's a guy that wrote a book on quantum physics for hippies. Super fascinating. I haven't read the book, but I ran across that on Amazon. I'm like, holy crap, this is so fascinating. So he's agreed to come on. He's a professor, I think, in Germany somewhere. So our time zone thing's going to be weird. It works out morning for him and night for me. So I think in a week or so we're going to do that. I have something tentatively set up with Professor Dave. Not a date, but I'm super looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's a few other things I think I'm talking to people, but there's no I don't want to say there's nothing set in stone yet, but that's almost a whole job in itself.
Sure.
Talking,
Yeah, no.
emailing back and forth, setting up dates, especially with all these time zone differences, and then building the thumbnail and the description, and then making sure you fairly represent the person, they feel comfortable. And
my method has been to like schedule things for like a month or two in advance, and then go back and create all the streams, the thumbnails, and the descriptions and links, and go ahead and like I'll create the streams, and then later I'll come back and add all the other stuff. And like I'll usually like set down after I've got like a whole month of people scheduled. I'll sit down and then do all that stuff and spend a couple hours like making thumbnails and stuff. And that's where Jess has came in to help me though. And I'm so
yeah, that's
thankful.
helpful. That I don't have a
She's good. She makes really good stuff. Here, have you seen my intro for the call-in show? Check this out. I'll show you this real quick and we'll get you out of here. I love this, by the way. It's going to be bass warning for your headphones here.
All right, let's do it.
They call me a god. 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 Let's go.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
super.
So I really
awesome.
Appreciate everything Jess has been doing. Like,
that's awesome to have some back end help.
I lack in, but yeah. So anyway, definitely go check out Michael and all the places that he'll be, and go to his channel and subscribe if you're not, please. Michael and I have sat here and had an amazing 3-hour conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and do it. It truly means a lot to me and to the ones that have sat and watched and gained something from this conversation. As for me, tonight, where'd it go? Tonight you can catch me on Skeptic Haven. That's 7 p.m. Central. That's 8 o'clock my time. Here in a few hours, I'll be on there with Stephanie taking calls. If you want to come join us, call in, stop and say hi in the chat, and definitely subscribe over there while you're there. I'm really looking forward to that. I've always loved the Skeptic Haven channel, and I'll be doing that. Tomorrow, I will have Blaster Master on as my guest for the call-in show, and we may have some theists already lined up that want to call in and talk to us. So that should go a little better, especially if I have all the audio issues worked out, which I'm not so sure I do, but I think I do. But I think I'm in a position that even if it's not, I can still fix it on the fly. So anyway, we'll be doing that tomorrow. I just released a video early this morning about Dave and I from Captive Desk responding to the claims made by AIG, and it's kind of a long one. But I've got another video that I've scripted and ready to go, responding to some claims made from Donnie over at Standing for Truth yesterday. So I'm going to try and get that out in the next day or two while his video is still fresh. And then me and Robin will be on Thursday this week talking politics. Our political show has had to go back and forth because of Robin's work schedule. So it's Wednesday one week, Thursday the next week, back to Wednesday. We have to do it that way to accommodate her schedule, which I'm cool with. I'm not sure what exactly we're going to focus on this week, but I imagine it's going to be Kamala Harris.
That seems like the hot topic right now.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into some of the details and talk about Kamala and some of her positions and some of the things that's been said, and that whole thing. And that's always fun with Robin. That's what I call our atheist news segment. It's kind of like a little satire deal. Like I'm kind of making fun of news, but at the same time talking political news. So yeah. So definitely lots of content for everybody to go check out and stuff. And one more time, I really do appreciate Michael coming and sitting down with me, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. I certainly did, even if you didn't. So sorry.
I hope everybody had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I just asked PC if she could find the link because I just remembered another show, and I wanted to give him a shout out because he's a supporter of both of our channels, and that's Zach. I'm going to be on with him next Sunday. And he was here in the chat earlier, and he
went off the stream because he liked.
Oh, he's off streaming on his own. Well, okay, so he does Sundays too. Anyways, next Sunday I'll be over whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what time zone he's in the British time
That's
zone.
so much fun. The shaking.
Yeah, we've done a couple things together. It's a real fun to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I do love how this community really supports everybody. I know sometimes all our streams are conflicting, and what do? You can't watch 3 things at once, but we're all trying to help each other. I think we're all, we all know all the boats are floating together. We're all trying to help each other connect with new people and recommending each other. And I really,
Now, Zach, I have to say is I discovered Zach through you when we invited you on for the first time. And I had just discovered your channel then, actually. And I watched some of your stuff, and that day, the particular day that I first watched, Zach was on live talking to you on a stream, and I just really I thought he was just really funny and enjoyed what he was saying, and went and checked out his channel, and I was like, he only had like 120 subscribers or something at the time, and I was like, wow, I've got to share this because I think Zach's something special there. He's really got for commentary, and
and he's very smart, and he has a very unique story. And when I first ran across him, it was the same thing. He had still a very small. I think when I found him, he didn't even have 100 people. The algorithm god sent him across me. I subscribed and I started commenting, and then at some point I said, "Hey, come stream with me. Like, get some more exposure, start meeting more people," and and he asked me to do a skit for one of the things he was doing. He was responding to a demon thing, so he had me dress up as a demon and read some lines, and that was a lot of fun. So that support stuff out there. I know everybody's got limited time, but it's definitely great to support each other and help all the different channels.
Well, I mean, Sunday night is awesome because there's so many options. Like just this evening, for me personally, I know that we've got. You're going on Wavelength. I'm going on Skeptic Haven. Ember will have a stream. Maya will have Bad Science Sundays. Zach is over there streaming now. And there's just a lot of I know I forgot somebody, and I'm sorry, but there's just so many options, and that's a good thing. Like we're not trying to hurt each other by going and streaming. It's just Sunday's
Sunday's a day where a lot of people. I have the fortunate thing that I can be super flexible during the week, so that's definitely an advantage I have. Where on Sunday I can say be a guest or whatever, and not have to try to like my own streams. I try to schedule during the week when I'm hosting.
There's the link for you and Zach and. Ember, what time does your stream start? And Justin here representing Wavelength. Hey, I was on Wavelength last night and had a really great conversation over there about voting techniques and some political stuff. But Ember starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome to have a lot of those, and it's not like if you don't catch it live, you can't
you can catch it on the recording
later, like so So
Well,
it's
the
that
weirdest
is
one.
fun.
Okay, the weirdest one is the debate. The going over the debate review of the Jay and Michael. So I had to leave. I had other things. I couldn't watch the whole thing, but I was there for a while in the chat.
Me too.
With Ember and Mark yesterday. I think they went like 4 or 5 or some insane amount of hours.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but I was there commenting and answering some questions, and it was fun. But it's really weird you're watching a response to something you were part of, and then you're commenting on in the chats, and like this is getting weird. And then it's like, how many layers can this go to the response to the response to the response?
Yeah.
It can get.
I need to find somebody that I can redirect to on Sundays, so that we keep like a steady stream of content for everybody. Like try and schedule it with somebody else that I'll end at like 4 or 4:30 or something, and then or whatever, and then they can start streaming right after, and I can redirect to them so that they can pick it up.
No, you gotta think bigger, Joe. You need to make the Truman Show 24-hour stream, and you just plug people in 24/7 and never goes down. There's
the
no
camera
break.
is right beside my bed, by the way. So
yeah, there you go.
You guys can watch me sleep tonight. The stream.
Well, no, they don't have to watch you sleep. They don't have to watch you sleep because there's multiple people in there. So you're sleeping, sure, but there's people in other parts of the country or in Australia or Europe that are talking.
Mark down there, he'll be streaming for sure.
Yeah, so you might be snoring in the background. We'll just make sure you mute your mic, and then everybody else can just keep going. It can go it can just go forever.
Let me put this up. Grassman Chronicles Christmas in July. Subscribe and comment. All hail Bigfoot to win an original Grassman t-shirt. That's over at Dave. Dave is the captive desk and also runs Grassman Chronicles. So Grassman Chronicles is awesome. We had a great time talking about Mothman over there here recently. But anyway, I won't take up any more of your time, and we can both take a break and decompress before we got to do more.
Before we're on another one.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for the invite, and I've had a great time and a great conversation. And of course,
we'll definitely have you back.
Thank you.
And don't go anywhere just yet.
I'll stay. Yeah, I'll stay here. Don't worry.
Thanks everybody that came to watch. I truly appreciate your support. I thank you for the super chats and the interactions and stuff. I love all of you. You are great people, and we're working to make the world a better place. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.